interruption. So it will be avoid the interruption in the seminar. And also for the participant online, you can turn on your camera and turn off your mic, so it will be avoid the disruption in the seminar. And the seminar will be held by 10 minutes again. Thank you for your attention.
Millions of people around the world live with untreatable diseases and undruggable conditions. Innovation in the use of nucleic acids provides a route to identify new therapeutics to support patients and improve their quality of life.
For customers who want to synthesize their own oligos, we offer everything from specialty reagents to instruments. For people who want to outsource oligosynthesis, we offer oligosynthesis services everywhere from early stage discovery and preclinical stages up through clinical scales of manufacture. Our oligosynthesis instrument business is based on the bioautomation Mermaid platform. They are synthesized highly complex oligos of all different types of modalities that would be used in therapeutic programs. We're really the primary supplier of controlled pore glass supports for oligosynthesis worldwide. We offer close to 500 different specialty phosphoramidites, most of which we manufacture ourselves. The oligos that we make are either active pharmaceutical ingredients, so they're the molecules that actually have the therapeutic effect, or in addition, we're manufacturing a lot of immunostimulatory oligos that are adjuvant to enhance the immune response and make vaccines more potent. Our CPGs are being used to synthesize active pharmaceutical ingredients that are used in exon skipping applications to treat conditions, for example, like Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. A range of things that we are supporting are ocular diseases, and so inherited blindness. We make oligos that are being used as an API to reduce mortality rate in sepsis patients.
We partner with customers for therapeutic oligosynthesis, from discovery to phase 2 clinical trials. Our customers are using our capabilities to develop therapies which transform the quality of life for their patients. LGC, Science for a Safer World.
Operator bisa cek sound dulu.
In today's crisis, LGC's core purpose of Science for a Safer World could not be more relevant and important. We are indeed involved in many aspects of the global COVID-19 crisis response, from providing the chemistry that goes into the testing kits, quality control materials, to support for medicine and vaccine development clinical research. As a provider of genomic analysis tools to accelerate mission-critical applications, LGC Biosearch Technologies has mobilized all necessary resources to support global testing requirements. For example, we have focused efforts on supply chain security, allowing us to deliver on the demand while maintaining high product quality. LGC has a proven track record in servicing public health emergencies, such as the 2009 H1N1 swine flu pandemic. In response to the immediate COVID-19 pandemic, our customers are supporting increased demand for pathogen detection using qPCR workflows. LGC continues to work with customers and partners to respond to the public health emergency. Our focus and resources remain committed to supplying the genomic analysis tools that deliver millions of test results globally. LGC, Science for a Safer World.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I want to remind all of you again to turn off your phone or change it into silent mode, so it will good for us and avoid the disruption in this event. And also for the participant who join us via Zoom, you can turn on your camera and turn off your mic to avoid the disruption in this seminar. And also, I want to welcome all of you guys to hybrid seminars, listen, learn from the pandemics, building your in-house capabilities for oligosynthesis in vaccine, therapeutics, and diagnostics, and molecular diagnostics for future preparedness. And also, guys, I want to thank you guys for your time, to sparing your time in this place. And I want to know if you guys are ready for this seminar. You could wave your hands. Are you guys ready? Or in the participant in online, you can wave your hand in the application via emoticon, and we could see you. And first of all, I want to thanks to the one Almighty God who are bring us together in this room, so we can come in this seminar with a good condition. And also, I want to say thank you to PT Ecosains Hayati, Biosearch Technologies, also Consortium Biotechnology Indonesia, and Universitas Unggul for providing and arrange this event, so we could attending this event. Ladies and gentlemen, we could give them a big applause for prepare this seminar. So first, I want to introduce myself because in Indonesia, there is someone says in bahasa, tak kenal maka tak sayang. If I translate it into English, it will be said, If you don't know, you don't love them. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Dennis, and I'm a Master of Ceremony on this event, and I'm from a biotechnology student from Universitas Unggul. And my partner,
Okay, and my name is Feren Stefani. I'm also a biotechnology student from Unggul University. And thank you for your time to join this event today. And I'm also thank you for all speakers. I hope we can get more knowledge from this seminar. The seminar will begin with first singing Indonesian anthem and Unggul Mars. And next we will hear the opening speech, and last we will hear the presentation by Mr. Luke Marian and Dr. Eng Desriani MSE.
so to shorten the time, I would invite Dea to lead us while singing our national anthem Indonesia Raya and our Mars by Universitas Unggul. For the Dea, the stage is yours. Please stand up for sing our national anthem Indonesia Raya.
Universitas Esa Unggul terukir dalam hatiku, meski kita tamat nanti, tetap kita satu hati. Potensi pembangunan tercipta di kampusku, demi masa depan bangsa, belajar sekuat daya. Universitas Esa Unggul menyatu dalam diriku, seluruh jiwa ragaku kan tetap tetap setia padamu. Universitas Unggul terukir dalam hatiku, meski kita tamat nanti, tetap kita satu hati. Potensi pembangunan tercipta di kampusku, demi masa depan bangsa, belajar sekuat daya. Universitas Unggul menyatu dalam diriku, seluruh jiwa ragaku kan tetap setia padamu.
Now we will hear the opening speech from Dr. Heni Saraswati, SSIM Biomed, as the Deputy Dean of Faculty of Life Science Unggul University. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give applause for Dr. Heni.
For Dr. Heni, the time is yours.
Thank you. Is my voice is very clear? Could you hear my voices? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is my voice is okay? Can you hear my voice? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Heni.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Honorable speakers, Luke Marion from LGC Bioresearch Technologies, Dr. Desriani MSI from Research Center for Genetic Engineering, BRIN, Dr. Sabtowo J. Pardal MS from Consortium Biotechnology Indonesia, and also Joy Kang, PhD from LGC Bioresearch Technologies. Mohon maaf, saya akan melakukan atau memberikan sambutan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Terima kasih atas kehadiran Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Seharusnya hari ini Bu Dekan yang akan memberikan sambutan, akan tetapi beliau meminta maaf, hari ini beliau tidak bisa hadir karena di waktu yang bersamaan beliau harus menghadiri suatu acara yang diselenggarakan untuk akreditasi institusi perguruan tinggi, sehingga beliau mewakilkan kepada saya untuk membuka acara ini. Saya juga mohon maaf tidak bisa hadir secara offline karena kondisi kesehatan, sehingga saya harus memberikan sambutan secara online. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu sekalian sudah hadir dalam acara ini. Acara ini diselenggarakan untuk bisa memberikan insight pengetahuan kepada Bapak dan Ibu sekalian mengenai perkembangan di bidang ilmu bioteknologi. Prodi bioteknologi merupakan salah satu prodi di dalam Fakultas Ilmu Kedokteran, ilmu kesehatan di Universitas Unggul yang merupakan prodi yang baru, tetapi sudah banyak memberikan kemajuan baik bagi prodinya maupun bagi fakultas dan juga universitas. Semoga Bapak dan Ibu sekalian bisa mendapatkan manfaat dari kegiatan di hari ini, sehingga ketika pulang nanti bisa mendapatkan ilmu baru yang bisa disebarkan ke kolega Bapak Ibu atau lingkungan Bapak Ibu sekalian. Mungkin dari itu, terima kasih saya sampaikan kepada para panitia juga yang sudah kerja keras untuk melaksanakan kegiatan di hari ini. Terima kasih saya sampaikan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Heni Saraswati, for giving the opening speech. And there is one opening remark from President of Consortium Biotechnology Indonesia by Dr. Sabtowo J. Pardal, MS. For Dr. Sabtowo J. Pardal, The time is yours, and I would like to welcome him to give a big applause for him.
Terima kasih. Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Yang terhormat Rektor Universitas Unggul yang dalam hari ini diwakili Ibu Heni Saraswati, Honorable Speaker Mr. Lab Marian and Dr. Eng Destiani from also moderator Mrs. Jokan, PhD, para penasehat, Dewan Penasehat, pengurus dan anggota KBI, serta seluruh peserta seminar yang hadir baik secara luring maupun daring. Pertama kami menyampaikan permohonan maaf dari Bapak Mastur selaku Ketua Konsorsium Bioteknologi Indonesia yang hari ini kebetulan berhalangan hadir untuk menyampaikan opening remark. Saya akan mewakili beliau untuk menyampaikan sambutan dan akan saya bawakan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Pertama-tama mari kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah atas rahmatnya sehingga kita dapat berkumpul pada pagi hari ini dalam acara seminar yang sangat menarik dengan tema Lesson Learned from the Pandemic, Building Your In-House Capabilities for Oligosynthesis in Vaccine, Therapeutic, and Molecular Diagnostic for Future Preparedness. Kita tahu semua bahwa hampir lebih dari 2 tahun kita mengalami pandemi, namun di balik itu semua ternyata ada beberapa hikmah yang bisa kita petik, diantaranya dengan adanya pandemi mendorong aktifnya riset-riset di bidang biologi molekuler dan farmasi, khususnya salah satunya adalah pengembangan vaksin dan diagnosis molekuler berbasis modifikasi oligonukleotida. Teknologi ini terbukti sangat membantu di dalam mitigasi pandemi. Sehingga alhamdulillah pada pagi hari ini kita bisa mengadakan hybrid seminar, walaupun memang belum semuanya bisa hadir secara fisik, termasuk saya, mohon maaf tidak bisa hadir secara fisik. Namun berbagai kendala dan tantangan masih tentunya akan kita hadapi, diantaranya adanya keterbatasan sarana, alat, dan sebagainya. Untuk itu, upaya penguatan riset bioteknologi, khususnya biologi molekuler, perlu terus kita dukung dan kita perkuat. Seminar ini diharapkan akan memberikan gambaran atau insight tentang riset dan pengembangan tentang sintesis oligonukleotida atau oligosintesis dan berbagai manfaat serta aplikasinya. Kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada Universitas Unggul, dalam hal ini Prodi Bioteknologi dari FMIPA, dan juga pada PT Ecosains atas kerjasamanya dengan KBI dalam penyelenggaraan seminar ini. Terima kasih kepada panitia dan seluruh peserta, juga kepada para pembicara pada pagi hari ini yang telah bersedia untuk sharing pengetahuannya. Semoga seminar hari ini bisa bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Akhir kata, kami ucapkan selamat melaksanakan webinar atau seminar. Semoga dapat berjalan lancar dan bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Demikian, Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Sabtowo, for giving the opening remark. And for the next one, that will be arranged by my partner, Farhan.
Now let's begin for the first seminar session. If any question from online participant, you can write question on the chat box and you can ask in English or Bahasa. The first session will be led by Ms. Joy Kang as the moderator and Mr. Luke Marian as the speaker. So I would like to invite Ms. Joy Kang to the stage. Please, our participant, give her big applause now. Okay. Before we start, first I will read the CV from Ms. Joy Kang as the moderator today. And Ms. Joy Kang is currently the APAC Regional Marketing Manager in LGC, Biosearch Technologies based out of their Singapore office. Prior to LGC, Ms. Joy has held roles as field application scientist, supporting single-cell and high-throughput genomics, as well as cell-based analysis platform for customers across Asia Pacific. And Miss Joy's academic background is on cancer biology, and she obtained her PhD and postdoctoral training in Department of Physiology in Unggul School of Medicine, National University of Singapore. Now I would like to invite Mr. Luke Marian as team from Research Technology, and please give applause for Mr. Luke Marian. And yeah, now for Ms. Joy Kang as the moderator, the time is yours.
All right, very good morning to everyone, and also for both attendees on site as well as those attending virtually from the Zoom platforms. Very excited to be here, since the past 2.5 years of the pandemic that we're able to finally been able to meet you face to face and those virtually in this hybrid platform. I'm personally very excited that we can gather all those experts from the life science community, both from the research universities as well as from the industry, to gather together and to share and engage in meaningful discussions to reflect upon the lessons that we have learned from the pandemic and how we can apply those insights that we gained from the pandemic to apply that in the path forward so that we could be better prepared for the next outbreak. So as the MC introduced, my name is Joy Kang. I'm based out of Singapore, and thanks for hosting me here. I'm currently the APAC Marketing Manager for Biosearch Technologies. With me today, we also have our colleagues, Luke Marian, who flew all the way from Belgium to share on his insights on how you can build and boost your capacity and capabilities to utilize oligosynthesis, which could be used in many different areas from research, molecular diagnostics, as well as therapeutics. All right, so with that, I will move on to the next slide. Okay, all right. So that's the beauty of having this hybrid seminar as we figure out all the IT and technical stuff, right? So if I were to ask, what are the top 3 keywords? I believe everyone has a list of your choice to describe, how the COVID pandemic has impacted your personal life, your family, your work. Personally, as being heavily engaged in the life science community, for me, the top 3 keywords will be diagnostics, vaccine, in particular mRNA vaccine, as well as supply chain. Number 1, diagnostics. Even I have 2 kids, one in primary 1 and primary 3. Even those primary kids, they know what is a PCR. And they can very confidently perform the swab testing using the rapid antigen test at home before they go for some events, let's say for cruise during their school holidays. Number 2, vaccine, in particular mRNA vaccine, that has been under the spotlight. Everyone knows about it, and we have never imagined prior to the pandemic that we're able to develop a vaccine with such good efficacy within such short window time period. This is unprecedented. And number 3, supply chain. I believe those involved in the COVID testing and the manufacturing of those test kits, especially during the onset of the pandemic, people have experienced certain level of component or raw material shortage somewhere along the testing workflow. Be it the viral transport media, be it the plastic waste, or even the huge scale of the oligonucleotides, the primers and the probes that has to go into the PCR testing kit. All this are faced supply shortages. Yeah, next slide, please. All right, so with their supply chain constraints in mind, we start to hear from the media, from the television, the newspaper, that many of the governments globally, as well as locally and regionally within Southeast Asia, we start to hear them, about building or boosting their sovereign capacity as well as capabilities to supply those critical components, be it molecular diagnostics, be it vaccine and therapeutics. And here, just a recap of some of the local or regional stories. Again, I'm from Singapore, so let's just take our Indonesia's good friend and neighbor, Singapore, as an example here. Later on, we'll move into the local Indonesia story. So here, just showing some of the local Singapore biotechs stood up to the challenge, especially during the initial onset, to launch a homegrown and homebrew COVID testing kit. And on the right-hand side here, this is more recent because we have noticed a trend of the testing from a high-throughput, centralized laboratory setting, pivoting to a decentralized point-of-care testing. That means you can test it in the clinic, closer to the patients, or even at home, so closer to the needs. So with that shift, there is also need to harness the specific capabilities of lyophilization. So here is another example from a local Singapore biotech company who are using their lyophilization techniques so that you could freeze dry or lyophilize the wet version of the test kit into a dried down format so that you can store it more easily, you can make it more accessible. And this services is also applies to the region in the Southeast Asia as well. And next, we have the local story from Indonesia. Indonesia also want to make sure that I have the capabilities to manufacture, to develop and distribute the kit. So this is just one story about Indonesia. Pasti Bisa donates a lot of the RT-PCR test kits to labs all around the country to make sure they are ready to fight the disease. And again, another collaboration across the country between Indonesia as well as United Kingdoms, the scientists in the community and the industry come together, brainstorm to see how I can make sure I nurture the talents locally using some of the technology that's been developed overseas. So these are all evidence to show that, the local government is very determined, very committed that I want to build up this molecular diagnostic capability so that I can be ready for the next outbreak. Moving on to the vaccines. I know the two top leading mRNA vaccine from BioNTech in collaboration with Pfizer as well as Moderna, again, has been under the spotlight during the pandemic. The BioNTech's commitment, they have made a huge investment into making Singapore as a regional headquarter as well as production facilities so that when there is a need, they can use the vaccine produced in the neighbor country to supply into Southeast Asia as well as more broadly into the Asia-Pacific region. And they are very grateful because of the success they've seen. They have actually gratefully acknowledged all their employees as well as the critical suppliers that have been supporting them in developing this historic vaccine. And I'm very proud that being part of the member from LGC Biosearch Technologies, the genomics division, we are actually publicly acknowledged by BioNTech that our platforms, our technologies are being used in building their mRNA workflow. And again, this is a local Indonesia story about the government also wanting to make sure I have this technology as well. So they are collaborating with another mRNA vaccine supplier in China so that they could transfer the necessary knowledge and know-how to make sure that I can also build my Indonesia branded mRNA vaccine as well. Again, shows the commitment from the government that I also need to build up my capabilities in the vaccine space. If I could just move on to the next slide. Yeah, so riding on the success of the mRNA vaccine, of course, mRNA is a messenger RNA. So we do notice that the focus on RNA as a general modality for both vaccine and therapeutics has received lots of attention. So here, we have a review article for one of the leading research institutes in Singapore trying to build their capabilities on RNA studies to be used as a therapeutic modality in general because they see the huge potential of this modality as the next generation breakthrough after small molecule as well as antibody. So they want to make sure, I build the current capability in Singapore to be able to use that technology. And it's also because, apart from the mRNA success, and recently FDA has also approved a siRNA therapeutics to lower the cholesterol. So previously, the RNA therapeutics has been used more to target rare diseases, but with this inclisiran approval, they realize it can actually be able to treat common diseases that could potentially benefit millions of people. All right, so with all this, really people feel that RNA therapeutics holds the great promise to be able to cure those previously undruggable diseases. And I feel it's important that Indonesia, being one of the larger countries in the Southeast Asia with millions of people, it's necessary to be able to understand how we can build up some of the local talents and knowledge pool in looking at RNA therapeutics as well. Yeah, so with all that, it's now the time to ask the million-dollar question. Are we ready for the next disease X? We also hear monkeypox is coming. So it's so real that, we need to get prepared. And I think we are not there yet, but hopefully through today's sharing, both from us as well as from the industry experts, that will give us, some evidence and how we can further prepare ourselves to make sure that we are future resilient. With that, I will move on to just a bit of introduction for our company, LGC. For those who have not been so familiar with it, we are a UK headquarter life science tools provider, and we play primarily in human healthcare as well as applied markets. We operate out of 18 countries with 12 manufacturing sites predominantly located in US, Europe, and in Asia. We have one in China for research and R&D and in manufacturing. 10 of those manufacturing sites are GXP regulator certified that allow us to supply into the regulated markets. And we from Biosearch Technologies are the genomics division from our parent company LGC. We have 2 divisions. So under the genomics division, our expertise really lies in the core competencies of nucleic acid synthesis, building the oligonucleotides. So we have vertically integrated all the supply chain that needed to go into the oligosynthesis, including the upstream synthesizers, mermaid, all the way to synthesis reagents, as well as the control pore glass. And on top of that, we do have a rich history and legacy behind this industry on oligonucleotide synthesis. We are the company that provides world's first primer that goes into Kary Mullis's first PCR reaction, which later won him a Nobel Prize because of him that discovered the PCR, which is now being utilized in a lot of areas. So we do have a rich history and data all the way back to 36 years, 3 decades, in being a pioneer in this industry. And leveraging on our core capabilities of oligonucleotide synthesis, we're also supplying other mission-critical components, including enzymes, master mixers, as well as beads that use in extraction for nucleic acid or NGS size cleanup and selection to build those PCR and NGS kit into the world's top 10 molecular diagnostic companies. On a separate note, we also offer highly differentiated high-throughput qPCR system that uses our proprietary array-take consumable that allows you to do PCR reaction at very small scale, at miniaturized reaction at a very high throughput. And I'm not talking about thousands of reactions today. I'm talking about hundreds, up to 100,000 per day reactions. And because of the high throughput, this system has been deployed by the UK government, the HSC, Department of Health and Social Care, during the COVID pandemic for their national testing program because of the high throughput and the demand at that time during the peak season, as well as by other couple of US private labs. With this component and solution offering, we believe that we are in a good position to enable science for a safer world. Whether it's building the nucleic acid to supply into the life-saving therapies, or whether it's about supplying the mission-critical components into building the next generation molecular diagnostic kit to make it more affordable, more accessible, more sensitive, etc. And also, on a different but very relevant note, especially now under the current macroeconomics because of the Ukraine crisis, we do face shortages. For Singapore, we lack of chickens. So Malaysia stops importing and we're getting chicken stock from Indonesia. So that signals the importance about being self-sufficient in the food security. And with that, we also supply our high-throughput genotyping platforms as well as chemistries into the world's leading seed companies, as well as research organizations to accelerate the molecular breeding program so they can have more varieties, more production to help feed the world. And last but not least, like many other organizations, we are fully committed to our ESG initiative, to meet the carbon net zero goal in 2015. And just on a very relevant note for what I talked about, our array-take proprietary systems that uses proprietary technologies so that you can do PCR reaction at very small scale that allows you to save a lot of the plastics. Right? So that is definitely a contribution towards a greener world. And on top of that, like Luke was going to share later on our oligonucleotide synthesis, our colleagues from the US sites are innovating in the ways to reduce the reagent usage so that you have significantly reduced waste production, yet still give you the same high quality products. And that helps us to build a more greener chemistry as well. With that, I would like just to thank everyone's attention, and I'll be happy to move on to our colleague, Luc Marion from Belgium, to share on his expert insights and on oligonucleotide synthesis, how you can use it across the different sectors. Luc has years and years of experience, over 20 years in this industry. He's the one that helped built a lot of the oligo production facility in US, in Europe, in Japan, as well as in Singapore to help those production up and running from scratch. And I believe his sharing today on the technical aspect will definitely be very helpful for our local audience who are thinking about how can I build up the local Indonesian capability so I can be ready for the next pandemic. With that, I will pass on to Luke. The stage is yours, Luke. Thank you.
Good morning, selamat pagi. Apa kabar? Baik? So my name is Luc Marion. As my colleague explained, I'm from Belgium, and I often come to Indonesia. My wife is Indonesian, so she's from Sulawesi Island. So I often go to Makassar and Toraja area. So I start to work in this field since 1999. At this stage, okay, it was the beginning of the oligo. And so we did set up a lot of instruments, set up in industry and company and laboratory. And so I will try to share my expertise. If you have any question you may ask, I will try to answer, or we will answer later. If there is some private company, we can also have discussion separately because sometimes there is some confidentiality. So it's always a point I would like to highlight. It's very important to be here in university because you are the future. You are the one who will build this next company in Indonesia. That's why it's very important to be here. So, next slide, please. Is it not working? It's working. Okay. So, what I will speak about is the key point to establish a laboratory as an oligosynthesis. I will speak about the oligosynthesis chemistry. And also how to handle the complex oligo, sometimes by making some conjugations. How to select an instrument, how to build your laboratory, what do you have to think about, and what do you have to take into account to build your laboratory. Which synthesized reagent you will have to use. What is the post-synthesis process, and some other logistic things, and think about also the safety. Of course, this is a huge domain, so we could speak 1 day, 2 days, because we cannot say in 45 minutes, oh, okay, after this seminar, I will be able to build a laboratory. But it's to give you some key points to keep in mind for the future. So, who already made some oligo here? Who already synthesized oligo? Maybe a few, maybe no one. So that's why I will do a few reminders concerning the chemistry. So you have the ribose, so you know the DNA, you have the ribose here, and with the R, if the R is a H, we speak about DNA, if it's a OH, we speak about RNA, but now there are also some other modification. We speak about if the R is a 2' ometyl, is the 2' ometyl phosphoramidite, and there is also the 2' fluoro, and so on. One thing is important, there are the 4 bases, with different structure, and we speak, when we will do oligo, sometimes you will hear about phosphodiester. So here on the phosphate, you have a X. If it's the X is an oxygen, we speak about phosphodiester. If it's a sulfur, you will speak about phosphorothioate. The synthesis of oligo, I want to say, is quite simple, but also complex. It's a 4-step cycle. So the step will be the detritylation, the coupling, capping, oxidation. Or you can do oxidation capping. Some companies do cap, ox, cap, it depends. You can adapt the process. But anyway, the most important also, you have detritylation. I will explain you what is behind. Coupling, and oxidation and capping. Okay, I will not go through all the steps, but I will explain what is done there. So imagine you have a solid support, the CPG, and this one is protected by DMT, dimethoxytrittyl, And one thing you will do, you will come with some solution as a 3% DCA in the chloromethane. And so this acidic treatment will put out this DMT. So you will remove the protective group. And this is an important step, because this step will provide you some thorough solutions, and so you will be able to see if your synthesis is going well. And so with this coloration, you can see if the synthesis is performant or not. So you have the CPG, you put out this DMT. After, you come with the second basis, let's say A, C, G, or T. You make the coupling between the second basis and this support. Unfortunately, in chemistry, the yield is never 100%. That's life. It's maybe 99.5, could be 99 or 98.5. Some parameter may affect this performance. So you have the second basis, but on the first one, there are still some signs not still available. What we have to do is to cap this one. So to cap, you will use some reagent, THF and lutein mixed together. So to be sure there will no branching on your oligo. At the end of this step, your phosphate is trivalent, so it's not stable. What you have to do is oxidation with iodine, and so to put your phosphate trivalent to be pentavalent. And so you have the first basis, the second basis, and you continue the process. And you will be able to draw an oligo 20, 30, 80 mer, 100, 120, sometimes a little more, but not too much, because you have also to think about the purification and the qualification and all these things. Okay, so there are different protection strategies. So, and this will affect the way you will make the cleavage and deprotection. So here, the T, there is no protection on the T basis. On the G, for the traditional one, you have isobutyryl to protect this position. On the A is a benzoyl, and on the C is also a benzoyl here. This is the traditional chemistry. Next one. Okay. There is also other protecting group when you want to do faster cleavage and deprotection. This one for the T, still the same, no protection. For the G, you replace, it's not anymore the isobutyryl. This is the DMF. The A is still the benzoyl. And the C, now you see it's acetyl. Another one after, it's another chemistry, but not so often used. T still remain the same. For the A, you speak about PAC. For the G, iso, PR PAC. And for the C, we keep the acetyl. So why do you have this kind of modification? First, we have the cleavage. The cleavage is to cut the link between the support. So I explain you have the first basis, second basis, and so forth. And so you have to cut the link between this support in 3' and the oligo. So this is the cleavage. And the second step, so you have the deprotection. So you will have to remove all this protecting group. So according if you use the traditional one or the fast one, the process should be a little different. How do you select it? It's according to the modification you have on your oligo. This is what I explained. Also, if you are in the industry, for instance, maybe you have qualified, validated method. So you will use this one because you have qualified it. The standard one is using ammonium hydroxide between 28 and 33%. And also, it's also a 12 ammonia solution. This can do cleavage and deprotection. For the fast protected group, you can use AMA. What is AMA? It's also this ammonium, this ammonia solution. It's a mixture 50%, so 1-1 with methylamine. You have to keep into account, but I will explain more into detail after that. Using some cleavage and deprotection can produce some secondary reactions. So with the AMA protection, you will have to use the acetyl protection. If no, you can have transamidation. For some oligo with an amino modification in 3' or in 5', you will have to be careful about the DMF protected group. So in terms of time, what is the difference? For the traditional, it's you eat several hours. For the fast one, if you use the AMA, it will be only 10 minutes at 65 degrees, or the ammonia at room temperature. Sometimes it's good also to take longer time and not to eat, because the fact to increase the temperature may affect the quality of your oligo. Don't forget also, if you make RNA, you have a 2' protections, and you will have to remove this protection. And to do it, to remove the deprotection position, you will use TEA HF, 3 times HF in DMSO. Oops. Nope. So for eating, what you will use, an oven, eating block. And this one, you can easily buy it and find it. But just keep in mind that without applying heating deprotection, you can sometimes do it at room temperature. And this is sometimes preferred for the oligo to not be too stringent and to not break something or to affect some modification you will have in your oligonucleotide. You will collect the oligo after the cleavage in some tube, and you will do the deprotection. So I explained you that you can have secondary reaction if you use, for instance, AMA with the methylamine. It's really mandatory to use the acetyl, so protecting group, because if you don't do that, you can have during the deprotection of the oligonucleotide, the beta-cyanoethyl on the phosphate backbone with the acrylonitrile generated can react together on the C protecting group, creating N-methyl-C. But ACDC, not the heavy metal group, but ACDC may avoid that. If you have an amino in 3', 5', even internally, you can have also a secondary reagent. And so that's why it's very important to make some cleaning, to wash your oligo to avoid this reaction. And the DMF can create this problem. And so you have to avoid this kind of process, or to clean well your oligo before the next step. Now I speak about the pore size. So as I explained, you will have your support, and in this support there are some holes. So the oligo will be done inside the support, not outside. And that's why we speak about pore size. We sell different pore size. The size is 500 angstrom, 600 angstrom, 1000 angstrom, 2000 angstrom, or 3000 angstrom. What is important? You will have to use the good pore size according to the length of your oligo. For the short oligo, let's say till 30-35 μ, you may use without any issue the small pore size as 500 or 600 angstrom. But if you want to make longer oligo, this kind of support are not convenient, because you will start to have some steric hindrance, not enough space. And so the oligo will not be able, and so the yield will decrease a lot. That's why there is another CPG with 1000 angstrom with more space, and so you can do oligo until maybe 75 bases. And the same process, if you want to do an oligo from 75 till 130 or something like that, you will use the 2000 angstrom, and the same for the 3000 angstrom for the longer oligo. This is theoretical number. Of course, 35 μ, maybe you will be able to do a 36 μ with the 600 angstrom. But maybe not. Maybe a 31, 32 will be the maximum, because it depends also of your sequence. The T takes less space than the G. So it depends also about your sequence. Don't forget also, if you have an oligo with a lot of G, if you have G, 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 you can have some poly-G structure, and so in this case, the synthesis of the oligo will be affected by that. So to select the support, there are two parameters, the porosity and also the loading. So the loading is the how many capacity, let's say like that, your support will have. So for the CPG with low porosity, the loading is very high. For the CPG with higher loading, higher porosity, sorry, the loading will be lower. So it's a balance between the both. Is it not too fast? Is it okay? Or, I don't know. So during the synthesis, I explained you there are 4 stages, and so you use some liquid. These liquid are named ancillary reagent. There is acetonitrile, the D block, the oxidizer, sorry, the activator, qA and qB. I already explained you the main of this one. So to make the detitylation, coupling. So for the coupling, you will use the activator and the amidite. And for the to make the capping, there are two reagents, caping A, caping B. After I will give you the composition of this reagent, and after you will have the oxidation. This is a table summarizing some possibility of composition for this reagent. So when I start to make oligo around 22 years ago, I did use the 3% TCA in dichloromethan. Now we recommend more to use 3% DCA in dichloromethan. Why? The efficiency is the same, but here in terms of waste, it's better because here is trichloro, there is dichloro. So this is a good impact on the waste. No, sorry, people are starting to using also 3% DCA in toluene. Sorry, there is a typo there. In terms of instead of the dichloromethan. For the activator, you use ETT, different percentage, different composition. For the oxidizer, it's always an iodine. Also, the percentage should be different. For the qA, it's what I used. It was the THF, and what we recommend is a THF, lutein, and AC2O. And for the qB, is 16% methylamine in THF. What is the size of the bottle? But of course, the size of the bottle will depend on the synthesis scale you will do. What means the synthesis scale? You can start with 50 nanomole, 200 nanomole, 1 micromole, 5 micromole, 200 micromole, and it will depend on which final quantity of the oligo you want to do. If you just need a small quantity, a few microgram, you can do a 200 nanomole, that will be okay. If you want milligram, of course you will have to start with a 1 micromole or maybe higher according to the length of your oligo or the complexity. If you speak about grams, there we start to speak about micromole, 200 micromoles or things like that, or even more. What you have to remember, there are 2 reagents the concentration will be higher, is the acetonitrile and the D block. So the size of the bottle for these 2 will be bigger. The other one, the activator, oxidizer, qA, qB, will have a smaller size of bottle. What I advise you, it's also, okay, not buy a big bottle and transfer in the small bottle. Don't do that, because when you do that, you increase the moisture. The water will be there, and with the moisture, the yield, the efficiency of the synthesis will decrease a lot. So it's better to use a new bottle, put the bottle on the instrument, it will be always better. Of course, the size of your bottle will depend, of course, about the kind of instrument you do. If you use an instrument to make 4 oligo, or if you use an instrument to make 192 oligo, the consumption will be different. If you are using an instrument 2 times 192 oligo and you use 5 micromole scale, there we speak about a few liters. Maybe acetonitrile will be around 8 liters. So you can have some system to put 2 bottles of acetonitrile together. And the same for D block. That's always the question I have. what kind of bottleneck do we have to use? In US, it's quite easy, it's GL38. In Europe, it's GL45. But sometime in Europe, according your supplier, it could be also GL38. In Asia, according to the country, it could be GL38 or GL45. So before to buy or to order a new instrument, it's very important to be in touch with your ancillary reagent supplier to see what they will be able to supply you. So like that, you will be ready. We can supply instrument with both GL38 or GL45. But it's very important you are in contact with your supplier of ancillary reagent to be sure you will have a smooth process to order the reagent. So as I explained, water, you need to avoid water at maximum. So that's why for the gas supply, and why do we use gas, is to put the pressure on the bottle and to put also the chamber of synthesis inert and to put out the liquid out of the chamber of synthesis. We recommend to use the argon. Argon, 99.99%, so 1 ppm water, very low water. You can, of course, use also nitrogen. You can have an instrument making nitrogen. It's also a possibility. It will work. For small oligo, it will work, and to be honest, you will not see really the difference. But if you want to make long oligo, 80mer, it will be a big difference. And just make the calculation. If you have efficiency of synthesis of 99.5 or let's say 98.5, for a 20mer, the difference will be only 16% different in terms of final purity level. But if you make a 50mer, you will have 75% purity for if you have efficiency of 99.9, but your purity will be 45.7 if you have an average efficiency of 98.5. So any person you can win during the synthesis will be one win for the future. So for me, I insist about one thing. If you want to make a nice and good oligo, the most critical step is the synthesis. You cannot ask your purification to clean something which is not already clean, let's say. If your synthesis is not efficient, the purification, of course, will clean, but your yield will decrease a lot. So please spend time to make a nice synthesis. So that's why it's good to use, according to me, to use the argon. And according to the company, it's not only me. Of course, in some countries, there is some moisture and something like that. Between the gas tanker and your synthesis, you can put an inline drying column. So your gas will go through this column, and so to put your gas dryer. It's also a possibility, you can add it to reduce also the moisture. Another thing, and almost everybody do it and use it, is to use molecular trap. So you can put the molecular trap in your amidite and in other reagent as the activator and the acetonitrile to decrease this water content. So you put the molecular trap, and after like that your amidite will be drier. And one thing is important is to change and renew the molecular trap after it, because I knew some people, they put a molecular trap and they put new amidite, so at the end, no efficiency of the molecular trap. What is the conjugation? So, okay, what I explained you before is the synthesis on the solid support with the amidite. Some modifications are not available on amidite, or some modifications are sensitive on the cycle because there is acidic treatment, and so maybe when you put this modification with the acidic treatment, they will be degraded. So what we do is to make an after synthesis conjugation. There are a lot of, not a lot, but there are a few ways to make conjugation. I will explain you a few here. One is to put some amino. So you have an amine, and so you will make a conjugation between NHS ester to make a functionalization with the amino. So on your oligo, you will put an amine in 3' or in 5' or internally. After that, you can make a manual conjugation to have this modification there in your oligo. So it's not complicated. It's just you have your amine, you have here the NHS ester position, and so as you may see, you create a link between the azote link and the carbon there. It's very important. It's very easy. Of course, it's very easy when you did often, but there are some parameters you have to take into account. The pH, for instance. The pH is very important. So you have to be in pH around 8 to 9. If no, this reaction will not be efficient. This is one of the first parameters to take into account. Also, you have to take into account the salt form of your oligonucleotide. Because if you have some ammonia or some amino contaminant, you will have secondary reaction. So this ammonia amino contaminant will react with the NHS ester, and so the yield will decrease. So what you have to do is to make a exchange ion, to exchange all your ions. You can use HPLC to do that, or precipitation, and you want to exchange in an ion as a lithium or sodium. And the last things, but it's always the same in chemistry, you have to be sure that your NHS ester is completely soluble in the reaction mixture. Because if your reagent, the NHS ester, cannot be diluted in the liquid, there is no contact. It's not logical, but you have to take into account it and maybe adjust the liquid or maybe the temperature. Next one, it will be on the thiol. You can make a coupling, a conjugation on the thiol. And so this is, in this case, it will be a conjugation between the thiol and the maleimide. So here, you have a thiol. There you have the maleimido. And so you create the link between the sulfur and this position in the maleimido. It's very simple reaction. And you generate a thiosuccinimide product. Be careful that it's possible also to have a secondary reaction. What is the secondary reaction and how to avoid that? To make your reaction, you have to be in pH between 6.5 and 7.5. If you are at pH 7, the good reaction, the one which is targeted, is 1,000 times faster than the secondary reaction. So you will obtain the correct product. If you are in a pH higher than 7.5, there is really a competition between the both reactions. So here is at the good pH, you have the thiol, you have the maleimido. So your amino here is a plus. So there is no reaction between here, but there is reaction here, and so you have the final product. If you are in a buffer higher than 7.5, of course you still have your reaction here, the one you are looking for, but there is a competition between the amino and this maleimido, and you have a secondary reagent. Secondary reagent at the end, and you don't want this one. You will have to clean it after, and so your yield will decrease. There are other chemoselective possibility to make conjugation. I just name and show you some. Instead to use, you still have the thiol, and you use a disulfide to make the linkage. I like to speak about the two other ones because maybe in your future life you will hear about click chemistry. What is a click chemistry? It's a reaction between an azide and an alkene. And so what's happened? You create this junction here. And this azide can be also under another form. It could be a dibenzocyclooctene azide. Here you have this cyclooctane, sorry, you have here the alkene with the azide, and you create the link here. This is quite, I cannot say new because it was developed along, but now more and more people are using this one. What about the synthesizer? When you build a new labs, what I always request or ask people is have enough space. It's very important, the space. Because of course, if you have your synthesizer in front of you, it will be possible to work. But it's very important to have a possibility to go behind the synthesizer, on the left, on the right. Why? To change the reagent, to make some maintenance, to do something like that. So it's very important to think about the space and not just put your synthesizer in the corner of your laboratory and you have no access, and after if there is any small issue, you will say, oh my goodness, why I didn't put more space. So here you have the different dimension of the synthesizer we are selling. I will not name it, but you can see that. And also, it's very important to have good fume hood and big enough to put the synthesizer inside. After I will speak a little more about the ventilation, but it's very important to have this ventilation and enough space in your fume hood or under the snorkel. So as I explained, we have 7 different instruments. What are the questions you have to ask you to select an instrument? First, how many oligo I will do per day, per week, per month? This is very important to know if you will buy an instrument who can do 4 oligo or 192 oligo. What is the synthesis scale? So do I plan to make small scale around 200 nanomole, 1 micromole? Or do I plan to make oligo for larger scale, as 200 micromole? This is also very important. Which kind of oligo do I plan to do? Will be it just DNA with one modification in 5 prime, so as a trencher in 3 prime and a modification in 5 prime, or will be it some complex oligo with a lot of different chemistry? Imagine if you made oligo just with DNA and 5 prime modification and maybe one other modification, you need only 6 phosphoramidite reagent. But what's happened if you want to make an oligo with 2 prime methyl, RNA, 2 prime fluoro, LNA? So you have already 16 positions just for that. And in addition, if you want to add some fluorophore, so some dye, it's already 17. And if you want to make some tricky oligo with some other modification, it would be more. So that's why we have the possibility, we can provide you instrument with different options, and it's possible to adapt the instrument to your needs. As you may see here, oh, sorry, I pushed on the wrong button. As you may see here, we have instruments to make 4 oligo, 6 oligo, 12, 48, 96, and 192. This is some idea of time to make oligo. So if you make an oligo around 20 mer, it will be around 2.5 hours with a double tripling and deblock. This one for 6 oligo, 3 hours, and at the end it will be 3.5 hours for 192 oligo. What is the scale range? From 50 to 5 micromole. Here is from 50 to 200 micromole. So imagine 200 micromole is already a lot. Huh? If you make at the end 6 oligo, 200 micromole, the same sequence, it's 1.2 millimole. You speak about grams. But if you want to do it, to make commercialization, it's very important to think about this instrument. Here it's about 50 to 5 micromole and all these things. The number of amidite, you may see here, we have instrument, we can provide you instrument with 10 positions until 64 positions. So imagine, 64 different positions. It's very crazy. Usually people, according to their needs, they buy with 12 or 20 or 24 positions or 16. But just one thing, don't think about your needs today. Think about your need in future. It's the same that when you buy a car, if you just married, you have a car for 2 people, that's good. But if you have children, your child you cannot use anymore. So it's very important to think about the future. What do you want to plan? Because this instrument you will use during years and years and years and years. It's not just a one-shot usage. So, okay, it's check what you need today, but think about the future too. One thing is important, for some instrument, there is the treated monitoring, and for some in high throughput it's not available. So what is this treated monitoring? If you remember in the cycle, the first step, the detritylation, you put out the dimethoxyethyl. This one is orange. And so this treated monitoring can give you a qualitative idea of the efficiency of your synthesis. It's not quantitative, it's qualitative. But like that, you know if your synthesis is going well. It's very important if you want to make or to use very expensive reagents. Because if you see your synthesis is dropping down and there is no anymore coupling, it's better to stop before to add your very expensive reagent. Because you know sometimes there are some reagents for a few thousand dollars or a few million rupiah just to add on the oligo, and just for a few milligrams you will pay it. So you prefer to stop the synthesis if you are not sure before you add this modification. One thing also is very important for me, it's to think about the support. What means support? Who will be able to assist you? What will happen if you have any issue with your instrument? We have a worldwide support. We are the only company with a worldwide support. It means we have engineer based in US, we have engineer based in Europe, we have engineer based in Singapore. So we are the only one. So if there is any issue, we can support you remotely, because if it's a small thing, we can support you remotely. But if there is a big issue, for instance, here in Indonesia, it's not so far. So people from Singapore can come here to fix your instrument. Sometimes some other company, they don't speak about it. When you have an issue, no one is coming, no one supports you. This is not our strategy. Our strategy is really to support and to be a partner with the customer. This is really what we want to do. With all the instruments you can do DNA, RNA, this is not a problem. Of course, you will have to adapt your protocol. What will be the difference is the time of contact. For the DNA, you will put a contact of a few minutes. For RNA, you will use maybe different solvent, different reagent, but the time of contact will be different. For the RNA, also the lot nucleic acid, the time of contact will be also a little different. So it's just adaptation of your protocol. What we will provide you when we install the instrument, first, the engineer will train you how to use the instrument, how to manage the software, how to do all these things. They will do some oligo with you just to show you that the oligo and the synthesizer is working well. We always do that, and I always advise people when they want to make when they use a new instrument to make first DNA, because DNA is the easiest, it's faster, and so like that you can show if the mechanical part of the synthesizer is working well. And after, when you are working well with your instrument, you can do use more tricky reagent. This is just a picture of one synthesizer, the Mermaid 4. If you want, we can show you other instruments. But it's not so big, a Mermaid 4. You can put it easily in a fume hood, and the computer is outside. Ventilation. Ventilation is very important, not for the synthesis. If you make your synthesis without ventilation or with ventilation, the synthesis efficiency will stay the same. It's more for you, for the user. You need ventilation because you have chemical, and some chemicals are quite caustic or aggressive for you, so you need the ventilation to put out the reagent. So you can use different kind of ventilation. You use a fume hood or a working hood, but if you don't have fume hood, or if the fume hood is too small, you can use a snorkel. So a snorkel on the top of the synthesizer, just to extract the gas. I provide you some idea of characteristic of the fume hood. So you need around 500 to 850 cubic meter per hour renew. And for the snorkel, it's a little less. It's 180 to 500 because the snorkel is closer to the instrument. Post-synthesis. Okay. What you have to do is to reduce the volume after the cleavage and the protection. You have to dry down the oligo and evaporate away any excess of the liquid left over from the cleavage cocktail. There are three ways to dry down. There is the evaporator. We can provide you some evaporator. We have that. There is the lyophilizer, and there is also the speed vac. Speed vac is a centrifuge with a, well, maybe you already use it. The speed vac, it's a centrifuge with a negative pressure and so like that you can dry down the oligo. When you buy the instrument, you will receive such kind of instrument. Is to make the cleavage and the protection. You put the colon of the oligo, you add the mixture to make the cleavage and protection, and you collect the oligo, cleave and deprotect it on the bottom. Okay, after your synthesis, okay, you want to know what is the yield, what is the quantity you have of oligo. So you do quantification. There are two ways to make the quantification. You can use a spectrophotometer to measure the OD of the oligo, or you can quantify using a nanodrop. This will give you an idea of the final yield you obtain. Oh. There is also, of course, when you do the oligo, you will make purification. For the purification, you can do purification by different way. You can just precipitate the oligo to put out the salt, to desal the oligo. You can use also some cartridge. So remember, you do the oligo, and at the last step of the oligo, you keep the DMT, the protective group. You use a cartridge. This DMT will be will link with the cartridge. The oligo failure, they don't have cartridge, so they can go out. So you put some different solvent. So only the oligo with the DMT will remain attached to your cartridge. And at the end, you cut the link between the DMT and the oligo, and so you collect your oligo. This method, I like this method because it's quite fast, it's quite easy, and give you a good result. Of course, if you want better purity, you can use HPLC reverse phase or ion exchange. You can do that. For the quality, there are two parameters in terms of quality you want to check. Do you have the full length of the oligo? And what is the purity level of this oligo? Because if you only use the HPLC to see the quality, okay, you will see, oh wow, I have an oligo 93%. But maybe it's not the good sequence. You don't know. So that's why it's always good to check if you have the full length and what is the purity. You have to, so you can make an HPLC and a mass control. And there is, of course, the gold standard is the LCMS, which can do the both. I insist about the safety because, you know, it's chemical reagent. If you have a drop in your eyes or something like that, you can have a huge problem. So this is the same in all chemical laboratories. You have to use glove, safety goggle, lab coats, eye wash station, just in case. So, but I insist about that because I saw some people, when they make production all the day, sometimes, they are too confident. And so it's very important to think about the safety. The fire code. The liquid you will use are flammable. So it's very important to check with your university, with your fire department, what you can use and which quantity you can keep. To keep before the stock, but also for the waste. Because this is a characteristic of the oligosynthesis. You have the support, but all the liquid which will come inside the support will go in the waste. You produce a very small quantity. You produce maybe 1 milligram, but you use a quantity of liquid. So it's very important to think about how to manage my storage, how to manage my waste. So this you will have to check because it's also depending about the country. It depending about your university. It depending maybe about the strategy or the way your private company will work. But I just want to highlight you the fact you have to think about that. And there is also some ordinance. Sometimes there is some limit. And sometimes you have to use plastic containers. Sometimes you have to use stainless steel. But it depends on the country. This is for the waste management. It's quite the same, I explained already, but you have to think that the waste you have to store, there is halogenated waste. You have to use waste which we can treat with I prefer to say in French, halogenated waste. It's very important because you have some chlorine, you have some very acidic reagents. So keep about the waste or to keep it in a safe way. The storage already mentioned, flammable, what is the maximum volume? Other consideration, some substances are considered in some country, depending on the country, are controlled substance. I mentioned the AMA, so it's the mixture of the hydroxide, the ammonia, and the methylamine. But in some country, the methylamine is prohibited. This methylamine is considered as a controlled substance by the DEA. In the qPCR, there is the acetic anhydride. In some country, it's considered as a controlled substance. So think about it. It's very important. And be sure you have the proper permit to use and to make the oligo and to establish your facility. Just to summarize, I think you have to well define your current, but I insist about your future needs. Because, you know, I started the production of oligo in 1999. It's only 22 years ago. It was yesterday, but a lot of things changed in 22 years. So please think about what will be your future in 5 years. It will be important. Where do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to do research and development? Do you want to prepare diagnostic kits? Do you want to go in therapeutics? It's very important to see where you want to go and what you want to do. This is for me very crucial. You have to keep the buffer stock of critical raw material and put in place supply agreement or open standing order. I just want to highlight something. For me, what the COVID showed me and what changed with the COVID. Before, all the suppliers had a stock of reagent. And it was manageable because they knew what was the need and they knew it. With the COVID, it was really a tsunami. All the users came to buy the reagent, and the stock were empty. And you know, this kind of reagent needs a few weeks to be produced. If you want to make a new CPG, it may take 12 weeks, 14 weeks. And so, by the past, if I had maybe 1 kilo of the CPG, if you call me and you ask me, oh, what will be the delivery time? I said it will be, let's say, 3-5 days because we have just to make the packaging, to pack and all this thing. No, I'm more cautious. I say, okay, I have 1 kilo. Of course, if no one is buying that, it will still be 3-5 days. But maybe today, tomorrow, someone will buy this 1 kilo. And what's happened? We have 0. So I will be cautious. I will say okay, we have it, but the stock may change. So that's why I advise the user, the company, the university, to define the critical reagent. And for this critical reagent, to have a minimum stock inside, a buffer stock. Like that, you avoid, because you don't know what is in the hand of your supplier. So put in place a buffer stock. I think it's always good. You don't need to put ton, of course. Of course, if you want to buy me ton of reagent, I will be okay. But you don't need it, but a minimum. And don't think, oh, I will receive in 3 days. It was the case 3 years ago. It's not anymore the case. You cannot be sure about that. And also, if you are making big quantity of production or things like that, maybe think about to have 80-20% supplier. It means, okay, you can buy 80% to one and 20 to the other. So like that you can switch if there is an issue in one supplier. This is an advice I also give to the people. Put contract also. If you want the supplier keep some reagent, it's possible. You can give some forecast. You can put in place some standing order, open order. This is possible. You don't need to have in your labs. We can also think about your future. If you need, I don't know, 200 grams of one reagent or 240 grams of one reagent during the years, we can put in place an agreement. And every month we deliver 20 grams. This is something possible. But it's important and more important to have discussion between the user and the provider. For me, it's one of the conclusions I want to say about this pandemic. That's why I say be in touch with us if you have any question. Also, don't forget we can also make custom synthesis in terms of reagent. In terms of reagent, because here I spoke a lot about the instrument. In terms of reagent, we have around 8,000 different descriptions, different items in our catalog. It doesn't mean it's 8,000 different chemical reagents. The packaging can be different. But we are a one-stop supplier. We can provide you everything in terms of solid support, so the CPG, reagent to make the synthesis, dye to ensure we can provide you this. Use the appropriate CPG porosity. Because sometimes people say, oh, my synthesis is not working well. This is probably due to the reagent. It was just because they didn't use the good porosity. And so not enough space, steric hydrants. So it's important, do fast is good, but it's also important to take time. It's important to put any action to improve your synthesis. Any person won during the synthesis will be percentage one for the purification and for the final product. So honestly, sometimes if you need a little more hours, a little more time to make the synthesis, but you win a few percent, it will make the difference. Keep in mind to limit at maximum water content. This is really the worst thing, have water. Sometimes use fresh reagent when it's possible. You remember for the cleavage and the protection, I spoke about the ammonia, chloride, the ammonium. So this is very cheap. So sometimes it's even better to renew often this reagent, and like that you have an efficient reaction. Define well your workflow. So you have to write the appropriate SOP related to this one. So you have the synthesis, you have your stock management first, it's very important. Your synthesis, your cleavage deprotection, your purification, quantification, quality control. Please put in place the SOP, the standard, the process. Like that is well done, and after people can do it. And also put in place the appropriate quality system. If you want to make research and development, okay, you can do that like that. But if you want to make or use ISO 9001, but if you want to make diagnostic kit, maybe you will have to be ISO 13485, and for therapeutic too. So you have to adapt your quality system according to the final usage. Terima kasih banyak. If you have any question, I will try to answer. If no, we will take note also, and don't hesitate. Tidak malu. I don't know. Yes?
Sorry, I missed your explanation about the vital monitoring. Yeah. What the function, why on the M4 on the
we have throttle monitoring on 3 instruments, so the M4, the M6, and the M12. We don't do that on the high throughput. The throttle monitoring, so when you do the synthesis, you have your oligo with the DMT. When you open the site and you do the detectylation, you put out the DMT. This gives you a color solution. And the throttle monitoring can check with to measure the color, and so it can give you an idea of the efficiency of your synthesis. For the high throughput, what you can do is not an automatic tritium monitoring. This I speak about automatic. For high throughput, you can put a plate after the distillation. You collect the liquid, and after you check the liquid toleration. It's just to give you an idea of the efficiency, the toleration. Normally, should be orange. Anyone else?
First of all,
I'm a little bit curious about the recommended solvent and also the chemicals needed for the synthesis. Do you have specific grade that are needed for the solvent itself? Like, for instance, it should be molecular grade or it should be RNase free. Thank you.
I think I have a slide with that, no? Later. I don't remember where. No, I finished. Sorry, it was me. It was up. Up. It was me. Make you mistake. Yeah, this one there. Up. I will do with that. Well, okay, just to explain you, I provide you the composition, and after you speak with your supplier, but there are not so many grades for this kind of solvent ancillary reagent, so you will use this one. But of course, it's a balance between the price and the quality. So I always recommend you to take high quality. But of course, if the price is the price of a Ferrari, be careful also. You have also to check what will be the usage of your oligo. And this is something also very important with the SOP. When you will have the audit, you can explain why you did use that. And due to, if it's working well, and all this thing, it's very, you can justify it. One thing, when you do R&D, what is important is to have the oligo. Okay? Almost with your purity. According to me, when you do diagnostic, you need an oligo with a purity level. When you do therapeutics, of course, you need an oligo with purity level. But what is important? It's what is the remaining. So imagine if you make an oligo diagnostic 95%, okay? But in therapeutics, the question will be more, what is the 5 remaining percent? Of course, you will have the 5%. And according to synthesis, and you have to put in place a robust process. And if sometime in the 5% you have one small peak, and the time after is a very big peak, you have to justify what is this peak. So in therapeutic, it's what will remain at the end. And so maybe this peak can come from your solvent. So for therapeutics, of course, it will be very high grade. For research and development, you can use research grades. You understand? Because for me in therapeutics, it's not only the purity of the oligo which is important, it's also the impurity. And what is the effect of the impurity on the patient? I don't know if I answer your question. Okay. Any other question? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. Also, thank you for the good presentation. Actually, I am undergraduate student who is also have been working on undergraduate thesis. I was working on in vitro diagnostic lab in BRIN, and I was working with an instrument, synthesizer instrument, and I worked for about 10 months, and I'm using the synthesizer for 5 months. In the first 2 months, I synthesized very well, but in the last 3 months, the result or the quality of synthesis is decreasing. I don't know why, but my current troubleshoot is because the moisture. How do you think? How fatal is the moisture in the reaction, based on your experience? Thank you.
I want to say, of course, the moisture may have some impact, but I don't know why the moisture changed in your laboratory. I don't know. So maybe there is some reason, but I didn't see your MS or HPLC. It's very important to see that to analyze. But maybe it's just some valve not working so well in your instrument. Maybe it's a tube in a little clog. Sometimes it's small thing like that. It's the same down in a car. Sometimes the tube in to inject the gasoline in your motor is not good, and after the motor is not. So I think for me it should be good to check your quality control, especially the MS, to see if you don't have any small failure. Maybe it's one base, maybe it's the A, the C, the G, or the T not coming good things. The first thing I will do, if it's me, is to make again a calibration of your instrument. Just to be sure your instrument is still well calibrated. Just to be sure when you want to deliver 1 milliliter, it's well 1 milliliter, 500. So this is the first thing. If it's the case, normally, it's not the instrument. After that, maybe it could be the quality of your ancillary reagent. Or it could be maybe the global moisture. But first thing for me, think about your instrument. Maybe there is a small thing. Check the calibration. And with the calibration, you will see maybe there is one reagent with a lower delivery. And you can see that with the MS, because with the MS, you see a lot of failure, so it may affect all the bases. But if you see a small failure for anytime there is a C, for instance, but you can check more for the C. And so this is what I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I have learned so much from your presentation, because turns out there are many modifications that we can do and also alternatives. I want to ask another question. Have you ever tried a crude primer for PCR? Because I want to do some desalting process, but we have runs out of reagent, and we just use the crude primer to PCR.
Personally, I always desalt it at minimum. Yes. Because when of course, maybe crude will work. I don't know. But me, in my previous company, we always at minimum made a desalting, because in the crude you don't know what remains, and so you don't know what will be the effect on your PCR. Maybe it will work, but maybe not. So at least me, I did a desalting, a precipitation. Yes.
I think that's why I synthesized about 80 pairs of primers, and only about 12 that are working in PCR, because we didn't do desalting. We just use crude primers, and I think that is a very big mistake.
But it's not. I will not say it's a mistake. You start to draw in the expertise. I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning too. But I know I don't name it mistake. I improve my process. I improve myself. Of course. Maybe you can name it a mistake, but for me, with mistake you learn. So for the next time you will not do it. But for me, precipitation. This is what I did. Yes, and. For your problem, analyze your MS. If you do an MS, contact your synthesizer supplier. They have to assist you, because they were there. Maybe they push you, they tease you to sell the instrument. Why they are not there to to assist you? It's very important. For me, that's why it's very crucial when you buy something, not only the synthesizer, but any instrument. Think about future. Think about, okay. Think about, if I have issue, can they assist me remotely? But not only for the synthesizer, even for the HPLC, for everything. Can they come here? It's very important. Can they help me? And that's very important. Yes. But for me, first thing should be to make a calibration, just to be sure. And just also wear your reagent fresh. Maybe do a calibration with the old reagent. So like that, anyway, you will throw away. You throw away your reagent, and after you use fresh reagent, and you check if you still have the issue. Because sometimes It should be also the freshness of the reagent. Because amidite for me, let's say 4 or 5 days. Amidite, standard amidite. Sometimes people think 2 weeks. Yeah, it should work, but it's the limit. It's always you are close to the borderline. So 4 or 5 days. That's why if you don't do a lot of oligo, buy small bottle. It's better to buy small bottle and to throw it than to buy a big one. And you will see the first oligo will be good, and after you will see like that, and when you will use a new instrument. But the problem, when you buy a big one, you will only change one amidite, and the 3 other will be old. So at the end, it will be always, one of this one will be always old. This is one thing I want to highlight, because when you buy small bottle, you will maybe change all the 4. So, and not only the amidite, the capping, the D block. So it's very important to adjust. Normally, the ancillary reagent, you can keep it maybe 1 month. It depends also if you open or not. The CPG is very stable. CPG is something very stable. Also, keep it in the good condition. You have to check what is written on the label. Is it at room temperature? Is it at 4 degrees or minus 20? And also, speak with your supplier, because room temperature doesn't mean the same everywhere. We chose a room temperature in Belgium and a room temperature in Indonesia. It's not the same. It's very important to keep that in mind, because, okay, people say room temperature. In Europe, we think about maybe 18 degrees. You never have 18 degrees here. And this is very important. And if it's standard oligo, okay. But another point, if you make trencher and dye, you have also to check if some of your dye are not sensitive to the light. Me, I remember for some oligo I did, sometimes I did put something around the column to be sure there is no light coming to the column, just to avoid that. You see, there are a lot of parameters, but for the dye trencher, all this thing, we can assist you if you have questions sometimes, and we can check, yes. This is why we have, honestly, in ADC, we have a lot of experts. You know, I'm 23 years old in this field, but I'm not the oldest. My boss is 30 years, my colleague, another, Lina, is 28, Jeff, my other colleague, is also the same. It's really a new team, but with a lot of old people, let's say like that. Senior people, I would say. But yes, make calibration first.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I have to consider small things in the future.
Yeah, I think so. Because I know people like to buy bigger for the price. I understand, but anyone else?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to ask about what is the difference about QC that using LCMS and using HPLC?
Yeah, if you make HPLC, first HPLC can be used for purification and for QC. HPLC is just a process. So, but if you do HPLC as a QC, only HPLC, you will only see the purity. So you will inject, and you will see a peak, and you will see a purity. But I just want to say, you don't know if the full length oligo. Imagine you made 21 mer, but imagine all your synthesis stop after 20 mer. When you do the cleavage and the protection, okay, you do it, you have an oligo, it's 20 mer. It's very pure, but it's not the targeted oligo. With the HPLC, you will see 93% or 78, whatever. And that's why we put in place MS. MS is to check the length of the oligo, to see if you have the full length. And LCMS is a combination between the both. You do an HPLC, follow, and also with the MS. So you can see the purity of the peak, which mass, okay? I don't know if I answer your questions. Yeah, no? Is it okay?
Thank you.
Welcome. Yes.
Okay. My question is,
What laboratory standard must have for running these tools, and what types of BSL?
Sorry, what is the question?
What laboratory standard must be had for running these tools? What types of BSL?
So you mean it's about the ISO standard or things like that?
Laboratory standard.
Yeah, so I think my understanding is about the ISO, the system quality or something like that. I don't know. Me, it's not. I'm not biologist, so I'm chemist. Me, sorry, I'm chemist. So, what is BSL? Can you?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a poor chemist.
If I can address that, BSL level is more for biology, so this is chemical. So I think it doesn't have any specific standards, whether you have to be BSL 1, 2, 3, or 4, and 4 is the highest. But for this one, more important is to put it in a fume hood with good ventilation so that the user who are performing the chemical synthesis, those toxic materials, chemicals, exhausts will be removed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know about the BSI. I just want to say what we have to put in place is the quality system according to the final usage. Quality system is something different. Think about internal audit, customer audit, improvement, and all these things. Have a QMS, quality master system, and all these things. So you have to think about that. Also, maybe if you are a private company, make audit of your supplier. This is also something you can do. For some ISO, you are obliged to make an audit of your supplier, just to be sure it's working well. Maybe it's required, but for your question, I cannot. But for the ISO, I did develop some laboratory ISO 9001 and ISO 13485. There are a lot of work to do, administrative, but also in terms of quality, to be sure. Just a simple thing. Or are you sure you put the good label in the good tube at the end? Just this kind of thing, you have to put in place the good process and the good cleaning. This is important.
Okay, maybe we will end this conversation. And thank you for Ms. Solok for the discussions and the presentation, and for Ms. Jika. Thank you. Please give her applause.
So we are going to enter the session 2, which is the speaker by Dr. Eng Desriani, MSc, from National Research and Innovation Agency, as it called BRAIN. And the moderator is Ms. Roslyn Putri. And for Dr. Eng Desriani, MSc, and Ms. Roslyn Putri, the time is yours. And all the participants could welcome both of them with the applause.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I apologize to LGC team because in this session we will use bahasa. I hope you are okay. Okay. Oke, terima kasih kepada MC atas kesempatan yang diberikan. Hadirin peserta seminar yang saya hormati, baik yang hadir secara offline maupun hadir secara online. Kita akan memasuki sesi kedua pada acara inti pada hari ini, yaitu penyampaian materi dari Ibu Dr. Eng Desriani, MSI, yang nantinya akan dilanjutkan dengan sesi tanya jawab. Sebelum penyajian materi, izinkan saya untuk membacakan biodata singkat dari pemateri hari ini. Ibu Dr. Eng Desriani, MSI, lahir di Medan 14 Desember 1978. Beliau menempuh pendidikan S1 di Universitas Andalas di bidang biologi, S2 di IPB, bidang biologi mikrobiologi, dan S3 di Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology di bidang bioteknologi. Saat ini beliau bertugas di BRAIN pada unit organisasi Pusris Rekayasa Genetika. Pada 5 tahun terakhir, beliau memiliki pengalaman 14 penelitian yang didanai dari beberapa sumber. Kemudian penelitian yang beliau lakukan ini diantaranya tentang pendeteksian kanker secara molekuler. Beliau juga menghasilkan 24 publikasi ilmiah serta memiliki 2 hak kekayaan intelektual pada tahun 2020 dan 2021 pada paten ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi. Pada 5 tahun terakhir, beliau telah 7 kali menjadi pemakalah seminar ilmiah dan beliau juga telah mendapatkan penghargaan Satya Lancana Karya Satya 10 dari LIPI pada tahun 2015 dan 10 tahun pemenang 108 Inovasi Indonesia dari Business Innovation Center tahun 2016. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang saya hormati, untuk materi hari ini kita akan memberikan waktu selama 30 menit. Setelah itu kami akan membuka sesi tanya jawab. Sehingga pada saat pemateri menyajikan materi, mohon peserta tidak disarankan untuk menginterupsi karena nanti kami akan buka sesi tanya jawab di akhir selesai pemateri. Baik, kita akan sambut Ibu Dr. Eng Desriani MSI untuk langsung membacakan materinya. Silakan Ibu.
Nanti dibantu aja bisa. Thank you very much to the moderator. It is very nice introduction actually. And on this occasion, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much to our first speaker, to Dr. Joy Marion. It is very interesting presentation today. I learned much from your presentation today. And also to the next speaker, to Dr. Joy Kong. Also, it is very nice. It is very interesting presentation. But as the moderator said in the beginning that I will present in Bahasa, so please allow me to present in Bahasa. Jadi pada kesempatan ini saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada komite yang telah memberi saya kesempatan dan juga sudah mengundang untuk mengisi seminar kita hari ini. Seminar hibrid di Universitas Unggul pada 4 Agustus 2022. Jadi tadi Ibu Olin sudah memperkenalkan saya secara singkat tadi ya mengenai latar belakang saya. Jadi ya saya dari Pusat Rekayasa Genetika di BRIN, tepatnya dari kelompok riset teknologi deteksi DNA dan rekayasa biologi molekuler insulin. Di BRIN, saya peneliti media. Dalam beberapa tahun belakangan ini, kami mengembangkan teknologi deteksi berbasis molekular, bekerja dengan target pada kanker payudara, kemudian juga baik itu untuk targetnya itu SNP, ataupun juga mutasi, ataupun juga amplifikasi gen. Di samping itu juga kami bekerja juga dengan COVID, mengembangkan teknik deteksinya berbasis pada RT-LAMP dan di samping itu juga kami juga bekerja dengan deteksi halal haram. Dalam hal ini kami mengembangkan triplex PCR. Jadi dalam satu closed single tube itu bisa mengenali internal control, kemudian juga mengenali target target yang akan dideteksi babi, DNA babi, dan juga kami mengembangkan juga targetnya itu untuk hewan yang sering dipalsukan dalam hal ini sapi. Jadi harapannya dengan teknik deteksi tersebut itu bisa simple dan lebih efisien. Dan teknik ini kami kembangkan baik itu berbasis PCR konvensional ataupun berbasis kepada real time PCR. Jadi karena kita bekerja dengan molekular diagnostik, tentunya ini akan sangat berkaitan sekali dengan oligonukleotida. Karena di dalam PCR kita mengetahui dalam molekular diagnostik, dalam hal ini pendekatan dengan PCR, DNA primer itu merupakan oligonukleotida. Di mana dengan kita memodifikasi DNA primer, maka kita akan bisa memodifikasi desain maupun pengembangan dari PCR-nya. Slide berikutnya. Ya, berikutnya. Nah, jadi ketika kami mengembangkan teknologi diagnostik molekular, ini merupakan beberapa fasilitas yang kami gunakan di BRIN. di mana gedung yang paling kiri itu merupakan gedung genomik namanya, gedung genomik. Nah, di gedung genomik ini kita bisa menemukan fasilitas berbagai macam jenis PCR dari generasi 1, generasi kedua, dan saya sempat sebenarnya melihat ada generasi ketiga PCR, digital PCR di gedung genomik. Kemudian di BSL 3 ini juga kita juga bisa memanfaatkan fasilitas di sana. Dan di Pusinov, gedung yang warna biru, ini di areal ini, yang hijau. Nah, di areal ini sebenarnya di areal ini terdapat banyak gedung ya, banyak lab di sini. Tadi ada salah satunya adalah gedung IVD atau in vitro diagnostik. Tadi salah satu penanya saya mendengarkan bekerja atau penelitian kali ya di BRIN, bekerja dengan oligosynthesizer. Jadi posisinya ada di belakang gedung ini. Jadi memang di BRIN pun juga kami sudah memiliki oligonukleotida synthesizer. Ya mungkin tidak terlalu lama tapi juga tidak terlalu baru. Ya, dengan nanti kalau kita ingin tertarik lebih lanjut dengan berkaitan dengan oligonukleotida, kita nanti bisa kontak dengan Ibu Aheta Atikana ya dan tim. Nah, sebenarnya fasilitas yang tersedia, kebetulan saya dari Cibinong Science Center, itu tidak terbatas pada fasilitas-fasilitas ini saja, tapi juga banyak fasilitas lainnya. Jadi di sana ada Indonesia Culture Collection, kemudian di Cibinong Science Center juga ada fasilitas rumah kaca, dan itu bisa, next slide. Nah, itu bisa di open access untuk semua kalangan, termasuk Bapak Ibu, teman-teman yang ada di sini semua, melalui layanan yang kita sebut sebagai layanan ELSA. Nanti apabila tertarik ingin memanfaatkan layanan yang tersedia tersebut, tinggal masuk ke dalam layanan ELSA, kemudian klik kita ingin menggunakan alat apa, dan kemudian apabila tersedia, kita bisa klik lebih lanjut untuk mengetahui bagaimana administrasi untuk bisa memanfaatkan layanan tersebut. Berikutnya. Nah, sebelum kita berbicara lebih lanjut mengenai molekular diagnostik, mungkin sedikit mengenai apa itu molekular diagnostik. Jadi, kalau molekular diagnostik itu berarti kita bekerja, targetnya itu kepada DNA ataupun RNA. Di mana molekular diagnostik ini itu banyak digunakan. Kenapa? Itu karena dia memiliki akurasi yang tinggi, kemudian juga mudah, cepat, sensitif, spesifik, dan diklaim juga tidak mahal. Di mana dengan menggunakan molekular diagnostik kita bisa menggunakannya untuk tujuan deteksi, diagnostik, kemudian juga untuk klasifikasi, prognosis, kemudian monitoring respons terhadap terapi, dan juga untuk prediktif terapi. Nah, selanjutnya. Nah, di Indonesia ini merupakan beberapa target dari pasar molekular diagnostik yang banyak digunakan. Di antaranya itu adalah untuk target penyakit infeksi, kemudian juga untuk forensik, kanker, kemudian penyakit yang berhubungan dengan genetik, kemudian juga paternity testing, dan lain sebagainya. Saya pikir untuk tren market dari molekular diagnostik yang ada di Indonesia ini tidak berbeda dengan negara-negara lainnya, di mana deteksi metodologi yang banyak digunakan di sini umumnya itu adalah berbasis pada nucleic acid amplifikasi teknologi. Ini beberapa metode yang digunakan, misalnya di sini ada PCR, kemudian ada bDNA, SDA, NASBA, TIM-A, dan LCR. Nah, di antara semua metode ini, PCR sampai saat ini masih merupakan primadona dan merupakan metode yang populer digunakan di dalam market diagnostik molekular. Tapi sebenarnya untuk deteksi metodologi ini sebenarnya tidak hanya berbasis kepada nucleic acid amplifikasi teknologi, tapi juga ada teknologi lain yang juga yang merupakan bagian dari molekular diagnostik. Seperti contohnya itu teknik hibridisasi pada DNA microarray, kemudian juga ada teknik FIS, itu juga merupakan contoh dari teknik molekular diagnostik yang berbasis pada DNA hibridisasi. Dan kemudian juga teknik lainnya ada juga dengan menggunakan teknik elektroforesis seperti pada DGGE, PFGE, dan lain sebagainya. Dan ini merupakan end user untuk pasar molekular diagnostik di Indonesia itu adalah industrial, akademik, pemerintah, dan komersial. Selanjutnya. Nah, tadi sudah disebutkan bahwa kita sudah menyinggung mengenai pasar molekular diagnostik. Nah, ini merupakan beberapa perusahaan penyedia layanan molekular diagnostik yang berkaitan misalnya di sini dengan kanker pada Rumah Sakit Siloam, kemudian juga Kalbegian juga berkaitan dengan molekular diagnostik yang berhubungan dengan kanker, kemudian juga ada Nusantik yang berhubungan kepada penyediaan layanan untuk penyakit infeksi dan lain sebagainya seterusnya. Nah, tadi kita sudah menyinggung bahwa adanya PCR. Nah, PCR sebagai metode molekular diagnostik yang masih menjadi primadona dan paling populer di antara metode-metode yang saat ini dikembangkan. Nah, PCR ini juga merupakan pintu gerbang untuk kemajuan dari molekular diagnostik. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, teman-teman mungkin di sini sudah mengetahui bagaimana itu step-step dari PCR. Nah, oligonukleotida itu ada di mana? Tadi sudah kita singgung, posisinya ada di primer, DNA primer. Tadi juga sudah disampaikan bahwa modifikasi pada DNA primer, maka itu merupakan salah satu upaya kita untuk melakukan desain dan pengembangan dari PCR kita untuk hal aplikasi molekular diagnostik. Nah, dalam kondisi keterbatasan sampel, DNA sampel ini juga bisa kita gunakan dalam bentuk oligonukleotida. Jadi nanti pengembangannya nanti dengan menggunakan oligonukleotida, tetap dikarenakan DNA itu sifatnya universal, jadi keberhasilan pada DNA sintetik itu juga kemungkinan akan memberikan hasil yang similar apabila kita menggunakan sampel yang sebenarnya. Dan tentunya ketika kita mengembangkan teknik molekular diagnostik, semua yang kita kerjakan itu harus kita validasi, kita bandingkan dengan gold standarnya, dan kemudian harus kita uji cobakan juga tentunya dengan sampel yang sebenarnya. Selanjutnya. Nah, tadi saya sudah menyampaikan bahwa pada beberapa tahun belakangan ini, kami mengembangkan teknik deteksi molekular berbasis PCR, yang mana kami menargetkan pada SNP HER2, kemudian juga pada mutasi, pada amplifikasi gen, yang semuanya itu ada yang ditujukan untuk prognosis, kemudian juga ada untuk prediktif terapi. Nah, pada kesempatan ini saya akan menyampaikan bagaimana cara kami melakukan mengembangkan teknik PCR, beberapa teknik PCR yang digunakan untuk mengenali SNP HER2 sebagai target. Selanjutnya, ya. Jadi sebelum saya menjelaskan lebih lanjut bagaimana metode kami melakukan pengembangan metode PCR-nya untuk target SNP HER2, ini sedikit pendahuluan kenapa kami latar belakang dari penelitian ini. Jadi kita mengetahui bahwa Indonesia itu merupakan negara dengan populasi yang cukup besar sebagai salah satu penduduk terbanyak di dunia, lebih kurang 270 juta jiwa ini pada tahun 2019, dan saya yakin 2022 ini angkanya akan jauh lebih banyak dibanding angka ini. Dan dari hasil dari data menunjukkan ternyata beberapa tahun belakangan ini kanker payudara itu menempati urutan pertama sebagai penyakit kanker dengan tingkat insidensi baru yang terbesar. Dan kemudian yang kedua, kanker payudara ini juga sebagai salah satu penyebab kematian tertinggi pada pasien. Nah, dengan adanya selanjutnya, dengan adanya molekular diagnostik, maka ini akan sangat membantu sekali terhadap terwujudnya suatu konsep personalized cancer therapy. Nah, apa itu konsep personalized therapy, cancer therapy? Artinya bahwa penderita kanker itu tidak bisa diberi obat yang sama antara satu dengan lainnya, karena antara satu dengan lainnya itu ternyata dia memiliki perbedaan, dan agar pengobatannya atau terapinya itu menjadi lebih tertarget dan lebih tepat sasaran kepada pasien, maka perlu dilakukan pemeriksaan-pemeriksaan terhadap biomarker penting. Nah, salah satunya itu adalah dengan pemeriksaan molekular diagnostik untuk melihat molekular profiling yang menjadi biomarker, untuk kemudian nanti kita bisa melakukan prediksi, prognostik, kemudian juga prediksi obat-obatan ataupun terapi yang bisa diberikan oleh klinisi. Dan kemudian sehingga nanti pengobatannya nanti akan menjadi lebih presisi, lebih ke sasaran untuk masing-masing pasien kanker. Berikutnya. Nah, berdasarkan pemeriksaan reseptornya, kanker payudara itu dibedakan menjadi 4, yaitu ada luminal A, luminal B, triple negatif, dan HER2, di mana untuk tipikal luminal itu dia memiliki reseptor estrogen progesteron, sedangkan triple negatif tidak memiliki reseptor estrogen progesteron, HER2 memiliki reseptor terhadap HER2. Nah, dengan memeriksa reseptor ini, maka nanti bisa dipakai untuk penentuan prognosis dan pemberian jenis terapi. Nah, dari hasil pemeriksaan ini merupakan beberapa terapi yang untuk masing-masing jenis subtipe kanker payudara tadi. Misalnya luminal, itu dia dikarenakan memiliki reseptor, maka dia rekomendasi terapinya itu adalah dengan menggunakan terapi endokrin, dengan menggunakan terapi hormonal. Sedangkan untuk triple negatif, dikarenakan dia tidak memiliki reseptor, maka terapi yang disarankan itu adalah kemoterapi, salah satunya, dan HER2 positif. Di sini dikarenakan dia memiliki reseptor HER2, maka disarankan adalah menggunakan antibodi monoklonal trastuzumab, atau kita kenal sebagai Herceptin, sebagai salah satu metode terapinya. Nah, pada kesempatan ini saya akan menyampaikan lebih lanjut mengenai kanker subtipe HER2. Nah, 1 dari 5 penderita kanker payudara itu merupakan HER2 positif, artinya 15 sampai dengan 20% itu merupakan HER2 positif. Nah, di mana kenapa kok timbul ada kanker subtipe HER2? Ini dikarenakan HER2-nya di overekspresi pada reseptornya, yang menyebabkan di sini dia sel akan tumbuh menjadi terlalu cepat. Nah, sedangkan dalam kondisi normal HER2 itu sebenarnya juga dibutuhkan karena dia berperan sangat penting untuk proses pertumbuhan dan pembelahan sel. Tapi kalau seandainya dia overekspresi, maka akan menyebabkan timbul kanker yang dikarenakan dia overekspresi reseptor HER2, maka kita sebut sebagai kanker payudara subtipe HER2. Nah, ini merupakan obat yang tadi sudah saya sampaikan untuk HER2. Ini merupakan monoklonal antibody targeted terapi trastuzumab yang kita kenal merek dagangnya adalah Herceptin, yang apabila dibeli ini harganya cukup mahal dan sangat mahal. Itu lebih kurang 20 jutaan. Lebih kurang 20 jutaan untuk 1 bulan pemakaian. Dan rekomendasi dari institusi internasional untuk lembaga kanker untuk penggunaan trastuzumab ini, baik itu ESMO, NCCN, Sengalen, itu lebih kurang adalah 1 tahun. Jadi bisa kita bayangkan berapa dana yang harus dikeluarkan untuk pasien subtipe HER2. Nah, sayangnya di sini dari laporan beberapa jurnal itu menunjukkan bahwa ternyata 50% pasien subtipe HER2 ini tidak mendapatkan manfaat pengobatan dengan trastuzumab. Dan 5 sampai dengan 30%-nya itu terdapat adanya resiko kardiotoksisitas dengan pengobatan dengan trastuzumab. Nah, dilaporkan di sini bahwa SNP HER2 pada domain transmembran berpengaruh terhadap efikasi trastuzumab pada pasien subtipe kanker HER2. Nah, apabila kita lihat varian dari SNP HER2, ini ada 3. Ada varian GG, AG, dan AA, di mana varian selanjutnya, varian AA, ya, jadi varian alel AA itu dia sensitif terhadap trastuzumab, alel GG dan AG responsif terhadap trastuzumab, dan resiko kardiotoksisitas akan kita temukan pada alel AG. Nah, ini merupakan dasar teori secara in silico kenapa SNP HER2 itu dia pada pasien subtipe HER2 itu dia lebih responsif terhadap trastuzumab. Ini dikarenakan trastuzumab itu bekerja pada membran pada reseptor HER2, di mana pada alel GG itu dia dimer dari HER2 itu dia bersifat lebih stabil dibandingkan yang yang non SNP, dan yang SNP itu kemudian akan meningkatkan aktivitas kinase yang ada di intramembrannya. Selanjutnya berikutnya, dan kemudian ini juga disupport dari penelitian in vitro, dan ini merupakan penelitian pada wanita yang dengan operasi primer pada kanker payudara yang juga menyebutkan bahwa alel isoleucin, jadi alel yang non SNP itu lebih less sensitif dibandingkan dengan alel yang SNP. Selanjutnya, nah atas dasar itu kemudian kami mengembangkan paket sistem deteksinya untuk si SNP HER2, di mana tadi sudah saya sampaikan untuk gold standar deteksi molekular untuk genotyping. Sampai saat ini PCR sequencing masih merupakan gold standar untuk genotyping. Jadi kita melakukan PCR sequencing ini yang nantinya akan kita gunakan untuk memvalidasi metode kita selanjutnya. Nah, pendekatan yang kami lakukan untuk mendeteksi SNP HER2 itu ada dua. Itu yang pertama adalah dengan menggunakan PCR konvensional, kemudian kedua dengan menggunakan teknik real time PCR. Nah, pada slide ini ya ini merupakan pendekatan untuk mendeteksi berbasis pada PCR konvensional. Tekniknya itu kita sebut sebagai PCR RFLP. Jadi bagaimana tahapan melakukan PCR RFLP? Pertama kita lakukan ekstraksi genomnya, kemudian kita amplifikasi HER2-nya, kita purifikasi, kita potong dengan enzim restriksi, kemudian kita analisis berdasarkan ukuran. Nah, sebenarnya untuk deteksi HER2, SNP HER2 ini sebenarnya ini PCR ini merupakan metode yang sudah banyak digunakan. Tetapi ketika kami uji coba, itu ternyata kami mengalami sedikit kesulitan karena ukuran yang sudah di-report itu terlalu pendek sehingga kita sulit untuk membedakan antara SNP dan non-SNP. Karena kita tahu bahwa apabila kita menggunakan PCR konvensional berarti analisisnya itu menggunakan teknik elektroforesis. Nah, untuk itu kami memodifikasinya yaitu dengan cara memperpanjang ukuran dari targetnya. Nah, ini cara melakukan analisisnya berdasarkan ukuran. Nah, jadi ini merupakan fragmen dari PCR HER2 tadi. Jadi apabila dia non-SNP, maka dia tidak akan terpotong dengan BSMN1. Jadi kita akan mendapatkan ukuran 480 base pair. Nah, apabila kita potong dengan BSM1, kita dapatkan ukuran 2 pita sebagai berikut. Nah, ini berarti dia homozygote SNP. Sedangkan apabila dipotong dengan BSM1, dia mendapatkan 3 pita sebagai berikut, berarti dia adalah heterozygote SNP. Nah, berarti salah satu alelnya adalah A dan salah satu yang lainnya adalah Q. Nah, ini merupakan hasil dari hasil PCR RFLP yang kami kembangkan. Dan apabila kita lihat kesesuaiannya dengan PCR sequencing ini lebih kurang adalah 100%. Nah, apabila kita lihat time frame dari selanjutnya, pengerjaan mulai dari ekstraksi sampai kemudian kita staining, ini membutuhkan waktu lebih kurang sebagai berikut. Selanjutnya. Nah, teknik yang kedua yang kami lakukan untuk mengenali SNP berbasis pada PCR konvensional. Tekniknya kita sebut sebagai alel spesifik PCR. Jadi tadi bahwa dengan memodifikasi oligonukleotida maka kita bisa mengembangkan desain PCR. Di mana tadi kalau pada PCR FLP desain PCR-nya itu seperti kita melakukan desain PCR reguler. Yang penting dia tidak ada primer-dimer, kemudian tidak ada hairpin loop structure, kemudian juga GC kontennya 50-60%, kemudian juga panjangnya lebih kurang 18 sampai dengan 25 pasang basah. Nah, kalau pada alel spesifik PCR, di sini modifikasi oligonukleotida DNA primernya itu dilakukan. Itu pertama kita menggunakan 2 forward primer dan 1 reverse primer, di mana salah satu dari forward primer ini itu mengandung mismatch dan kemudian dia mengenali target misalnya di sini untuk mutasi, untuk mengenali mutasi ataupun SNP. Sedangkan salah satunya ini mengenali yang non mutasi atau non SNP-nya, dan salah satu primer forward tersebut kita beri GC-tel. Nah, kenapa kita beri GC-tel? Karena lagi-lagi karena kita menggunakan PCR konvensional, di mana kita untuk membedakan mutasi atau SNP itu nanti kan berdasarkan ukuran. Jadi ini harus produknya itu harus bisa kita bedakan antara yang SNP dengan non-SNP. Nah, sehingga nanti bila kita buat ilustrasinya adalah sebagai berikut. Jadi apabila dia SNP ukurannya adalah 168 untuk yang homozigot, non-SNP 142 untuk yang non-SNP AA, sedangkan yang heterozigot berarti ukurannya adalah 168 dan 142. Nah, ini lebih kurang hasil PCR-nya, dan ini kesesuaiannya dengan PCR sequencing, jadi dengan N-sample lebih kurang 61 kita dapatkan 100% kesesuaian. Nah, berikutnya. Nah, setelah tadi saya menjelaskan mengenai teknik PCR dengan PCR konvensional, berikutnya saya akan mempresentasikan ini bagaimana kita melakukan deteksi SNP HER2 dengan teknik real-time PCR, dalam hal ini dengan menggunakan teknik HRM. Nah, untuk desain oligonukleotidanya bisa kita lihat di sini, ini posisi forward dan sini posisi reverse. Nah, untuk desain oligonukleotidanya, ini mirip dengan PCR terapi ataupun PCR regular lainnya. Nah, selanjutnya. Nah, pada HRM ini ketika kita melakukan setting di real time PCR-nya, tahap pertama itu adalah untuk proses amplifikasi. Sedangkan tahap berikutnya kita sebut sebagai disosiasi DNA. Nah, disosiasi DNA ini dengan itu di dalam real time itu ini biasanya dilakukan untuk reaksi-reaksi real time yang menggunakan cyber green 1 ataupun EVA green untuk melihat spesifisitas dari produk kita, apakah dia sudah spesifik atau tidak. Nah, di DNA disosiasi itu dengan menggunakan HRM software, ini juga bisa kita pakai nanti untuk membedakan apakah dia itu SNP ataupun non-SNP. Dalam hal ini kita nanti bisa membedakan apakah dia AA, AG maupun GG. Nah, dengan HRM software nanti kita bisa pilih tampilannya apakah nanti mau dibuat dalam bentuk HRM bentuk kurva HRM berdasarkan perbedaannya berdasarkan bentuk ataupun perbedaannya berdasarkan shifting, jadi pergeseran dari temperatur meltingnya. Nah, titik kritis dari HRM ini salah satunya adalah ukuran amplikon dan GC kontennya. Jadi untuk ukuran amplikonnya itu jangan panjang, lebih kurang 300 base pair, tapi idealnya itu adalah lebih kurang 100 base pair. Jadi kalau dia ukurannya pendek, maka akan semakin mudah bagi kita untuk membedakan antara SNP dan non-SNP. Tapi bila terlalu panjang nanti dikhawatirkan akan muncul adanya struktur sekunder sehingga nanti menyulitkan kita untuk melakukan diferensiasi antara target dan non-target, dalam hal ini AA, GG, dan AG. Selanjutnya. Dan ini kesesuaiannya dengan PCR sequencing adalah 100%. Selanjutnya. Nah, dengan teknik real-time PCR, di samping teknik HRM, kami juga menggunakan mengembangkan teknik lainnya. Teknik lainnya itu dengan menggunakan dayanya itu adalah cyber green 1 qPCR. Sekalinya kita berhasil dengan cyber green 1 qPCR, maka teknik atau metode yang kita kembangkan ini akan menjadi lebih murah karena dia ini merupakan dye yang paling murah ya di antara dye fluorescence yang ada untuk real-time PCR. Tetapi pengembangannya ini tricky. Kenapa tricky? Karena cyber green 1 ini dia menyisip secara intercolor di double stranded DNA. Sedangkan tadi kalau EVA green pada HRM dia akan menyisip pada akan berikatan dengan setiap basa nukleotida. Jadi dia akan mengikat secara jenuh pada semua basa nukleotida penyusun amplikon yang menyebabkan dia ada perbedaan sedikit itu bisa dibedakan. Tetapi dengan cyber green 1 itu tidak bisa. Jadi itu butuh adanya trik. Nah, triknya ada di mana? Triknya itu adalah di desain oligonukleotidanya. Jadi teknik ini sebenarnya mirip dengan AS-PCR tadi, hanya saja di sini aplikasinya pada real time PCR. Jadi kita menggunakan selanjutnya ada 2 primer forward dan 1 reverse. Ya, tadi salah satu forward itu kita beri mismatch mengenali SNP-nya. Sedangkan yang salah satunya itu mengenali wild type-nya. Nah, strateginya untuk keberhasilan dari teknik ini itu adalah kita memberi GC-tel. Tadi GC-telnya bisa salah satunya atau salah satu di antaranya, yang harapannya itu nanti apabila itu diintroduksi nanti sehingga targetnya nanti dia akan mengalami pergeseran temperatur melting. Nah, sama sebagaimana tadi pada HRM. Jadi kalau pada HRM tadi step untuk melakukan real time PCR-nya itu ada dua, ada tahap amplifikasi dan ada tahap DNA disosiasi. Nah, tahapan DNA disosiasi inilah yang kita manfaatkan untuk membedakan SNP pada HER2 tadi. Jadi agar dia bisa bergeser yang SNP dengan yang non SNP, salah satu metodenya, jadi salah satu kunci kritis yang harus kita perhatikan adalah pada desain primernya, dan juga kalau seandainya kita mau menambah GC-tel itu pilihan, tapi mungkin akan lebih baik lagi dikarenakan nanti akan membantu untuk lebih agar temperatur shiftingnya tuh menjadi lebih signifikan perbedaannya antara satu target dengan target lainnya. Nah, di sini bisa kita lihat di sini dengan metode TM-Shift Cyber Green 1 qPCR, di sini kita bisa melihat pola yang A sebagai berikut, GG dan AG adalah sebagai berikut. Nah, dengan teknik-teknik ini sebenarnya tidak terbatas hanya pada SNP HER2, tapi tadi bisa kita manfaatkan juga untuk deteksi-deteksi yang lainnya, misalnya tadi untuk mutasi dan lain sebagainya. Mungkin demikian pada kesempatan ini ya. Next. Saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada kolega kami ini dari rumah sakit berikut dan juga dari Grand Kompetitif TP, Sinas Ristek Dikti, dan juga kepada rekan-rekan ex-TP dari Lab Biologi Molekular Kesehatan dan Diagnostik, dan juga pada teman-teman mahasiswa bimbingan dari, ini ada Ariza Yan Dwi Putra yang saat ini mahasiswa ITS, mahasiswa saya yang mengerjakan PCR terapi, saat ini sudah menjadi kolega di BRIN, dan kemudian juga mengucapkan terima kasih pada mahasiswa saya yang lain dari UI, kemudian dari UGM, dari Unsud, dari UNAN, dan lain sebagainya. Mungkin demikian, terima kasih, saya kembalikan kepada moderator.
Baik, terima kasih kepada Ibu Dr. Desriani, materi yang sangat baik sekali, sangat menginspirasi kami juga untuk melakukan banyak penelitian. Kita jadi tahu Bu bahwa fasilitas lab di Indonesia itu memang sudah baik. Kemudian harapan kedepannya juga nanti di Indonesia kita dapat memproduksi oligo secara masif sendiri, sehingga ketika nantinya adanya pandemi seperti yang COVID sekarang ini, kita nggak perlu lagi tergantung sama negara lain. Harapan kami seperti itu ya Ibu. Karena sebenarnya pendeteksian menggunakan molekuler itu masih menjadi primadona ya tadi seperti Ibu Desriani bilang, bahwa dilakukan secara cepat, kemudian spesifik dan akurat. Nanti juga tadi seperti penelitian yang Ibu lakukan tentang SNP HER2, bahwa itu nantinya dapat membantu pasien kanker untuk mendapatkan pengobatan yang lebih presisi.
Iya. Mungkin sedikit saya tambahkan. Jadi apa yang dikatakan oleh Dr. Joy Kong tadi ya, mengenai pada awal-awal pandemi itu kita kesulitan untuk mendapatkan supply baik itu kit maupun bahan ausnya. Itu juga kami alami. Jadi kebetulan waktu itu saya sebagai salah satu jadi ceritanya di LIPI ya waktu itu di BRIN itu kita ada pelatihan untuk tenaga deteksi RT-PCR buat SARS-CoV-2. Itu kami mengalami waktu itu mengenai suplai bahan aus dan kit yang sangat terbatas. Jadi kita harus rebutan ceritanya waktu itu ya.
Oke, apalagi di awal pandemi ya Ibu, semuanya kita merasakan susahnya untuk mendapatkan kit untuk pendeteksian COVID ini. Semoga ini jadi pembelajaran juga buat kita semua. Kemudian nanti kita kedepannya di Indonesia juga kita bisa, tadi seperti saya bilang bahwa kita bisa menciptakan reagen kit sendiri, kita bisa membuat oligo secara masif seperti itu. Baik, akan saya buka sesi tanya jawab untuk Ibu Dr. Desriani. Jika rekan-rekan ada yang ingin bertanya, mohon dapat mengangkat tangannya. Ya, baik Bapak.
Terima kasih. Nama saya Haidir, saya tertarik dengan penelitian Ibu tadi dengan penjelasan yang sangat jelas gitu ya dan gamblang. Cuma yang saya tanyakan untuk teknik-teknik yang tadi Ibu jelaskan itu untuk ke pasaran Indonesia, karena di Indonesia mungkin sudah banyak yang penderita penyakit kanker itu, yang lebih mudah atau yang lebih murah itu yang mana yang harus dikembangkan ke arah yang untuk ke arah marketingnya itu tadi ya. Itu saja mungkin Bu. Terima kasih.
Langsung dijawab atau gimana?
Iya, boleh
Terima kasih.
boleh dijawab.
Ya baik Pak Hidir, terima kasih atas tanggapannya Pak ya, pertanyaannya. Jadi Pak, saat ini memang untuk PCR itu yang lebih primadonanya lagi itu adalah berbasis real time PCR Pak. Jadi dengan berbasis real time PCR itu, begitu PCR selesai itu bisa langsung kita analisis Pak. Dan itu pengerjaannya jadinya jadi lebih masif ya Pak ya, bisa cepat langsung diketahui hasilnya begitu setelah PCR-nya selesai. Mungkin untuk dulu real time PCR itu harganya mahal ya Pak ya waktu dia pertama kali keluar. Tapi kesininya itu harganya tuh semakin lebih kompetitif Pak dan lebih lebih mudah dijangkau ketimbang di awal-awal gitu Pak. Jadi memang saat ini memang dan apabila kita melihat reagen kit yang tersedia itu pun yang komersial itu rata-rata basisnya itu real time PCR Pak. Real time PCR.
Baik, ada lagi yang ingin bertanya? Ya, boleh.
Ya, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Saya izin bertanya kembali, ini terkait metode yang Ibu kembangkan. Mungkin kita semuanya memahami gitu ya, kalau semua metode itu pasti akan berlaku untuk molekular diagnostik pada SNP untuk penyakit apapun dan bahkan untuk infectious disease gitu ya Bu ya. Nah, lalu tadi Bu melanjutkan terkait untuk yang paling primadona gitu ya, bahasanya itu adalah yang real time PCR. Nah, kalau misalkan kita bicara lebih jauh, misalkan kita pengen mengembangkan lebih lanjut ke arah yang ready untuk di klinik gitu ya, klinis itu menurut Ibu gimana ya terkait yang HRM sama yang terakhir tadi itu yang berbasis TM-SIF? Karena mungkin dua-duanya punya kelemahan gitu ya Bu ya. Kayak mungkin yang HRM ya kita mungkin itu kalau tadi saya lihat dari pembuktiannya kan dari setelah disanger itu kan hasilnya udah 100% sama ya. Cuma mungkin yang saya tahu itu nggak semua instrumen punya software untuk HRM gitu ya Bu. Terus kalau misalkan yang tadi yang kedua itu terkait TM-SIF kan ini ya, dia masih pakai cyber yang satu, artinya kan nggak sespesifik Evergreen. Jadi menurut Ibu lebih spesifiknya yang mana yang lebih potensial gitu Bu?
Iya, untuk saat ini sih sebenarnya yang kalau secara report itu mungkin cyber green tuh banyak dilaporkan gitu kan ya. Tapi mungkin secara komersial itu lebih mudah, lebih gampang tuh dengan HRM gitu tekniknya ya gitu ya. Ya, mengenai software tadi benar ya. Mungkin tidak semua mesin ya. Itu tidak semua mesin itu dia punya software HRM. Kebetulan kami di sini mengembangkannya menggunakan Biorad CFX 96 touchscreen itu ya. Nah, itu dia tidak punya software HRM. Jadi kita kalau mau menggunakan teknik HRM berarti kita harus menggunakan dongle khusus ya. Jadi software eksternal kita masukkan untuk bisa diolah datanya. Nah, tapi kalau seandainya mesin-mesin real time PCR yang beredar sekarang itu umumnya sudah HRM-nya sudah terintegrasi gitu. Nah, untuk Cyber Green One sendiri ini memang dia itu susah di awal justru, susah untuk mengembangkannya. Tapi sekalinya kita berhasil mengembangkan, maka dia akan menjadi lebih mudah dan mungkin lebih murah dibandingkan dengan yang lainnya. Karena dari segi harga, price dari reagennya itu juga yang paling murah dibandingkan dengan lainnya. Nah, mengenai penerimaan nanti ini yang digunakan tuh yang mana, ini yang harus dibuktikan lagi lebih lanjut. Jadi molekular diagnostik yang bisa diterima itu yang bagaimana? Yang memiliki spesifitas yang tinggi tentunya gitu kan ya. 100% spesifik ke targetnya. Kemudian yang kedua juga dia sensitif. Sensitif artinya semakin sedikit yang bisa dia deteksi itu maka akan semakin bagus diagnosis molekular yang kita kembangkan. Dan yang ketiga tentunya kita harus mempertimbangkan simplicity-nya ya. Apalagi kan nanti kalau secara klinis itu dia untuk penggunaan rutin. Gitu. Jadi semakin rutin semakin mudah, maka akan semakin memungkinkan untuk digunakan rutin untuk sehari-hari.
Oke, baik Bu. Terima kasih. Mungkin sedikit lagi Bu, ini karena kebetulan mahasiswa kita ada yang PKM juga, lolos PKM dana hibah untuk pengembangan kit SARS-CoV. Jadi kita mengembangkan SGTF untuk Omicron ceritanya. Terus kita menggunakan 2 primer seperti yang mungkin mirip kayak tadi, tapi kita nggak pakai GC tail gitu ya. Nah itu kita ada challenge pas ngedesainnya itu selalu ada potensi self dimer karena 2 forward gitu ya. Itu ada challenge tersendiri nggak Bu pas ngembangin ada 2 forward gitu Bu?
Ini tadi mau ngembangin untuk deteksi Omicron ya. Omicron pakai real time PCR ya. Itunya pakai apa? HRM atau pakai baru ditanyakan ke saya?
Enggak, kalau kita pakai SGTF, cuman kita ada challenge-nya tuh pas ngedesain primer, terutama yang forward itu selalu rawan sama self dimer gitu. Karena kan sama gitu pasti.
Iya,
nah, itu gimana kira-kira? Ada challenge juga nggak di penelitian Ibu?
Sebenarnya challenge di real time PCR maupun PCR itu sebenarnya sih sama aja gitu kan ya. Mungkin mulai dari tahapan desain primernya itu kita sudah mulai berhati-hati di sana gitu. Jadi ketika kita memutuskan kita menggunakan area mana yang mau jadi target, mana yang menjadi primer forward maupun reverse-nya, itu sebaiknya udah kita cek primer-primernya, potensinya seperti itu gitu. Ya.
Kalau ada penambahan GC tail itu mempengaruhi juga nggak Bu nantinya?
Penambahan GC tail itu nanti juga akan berpengaruh juga sih memang untuk primer-primernya. Kalau seandainya kita sudah tidak punya opsi apa-apa lagi nih, memang harus itu gitu, seperti gitu kan ya. Berarti yang kita pertimbangkan itu adalah setup PCR-nya itu harus kita pertimbangkan. Kemudian juga konsentrasi primernya. Nah itu pentingnya nanti kita formulasi nih berapa forward yang harus kita bubuhkan. Jadi proporsinya mungkin nggak 1:1, tapi berapa banding berapa gitu kali ya. Supaya kita menghindari dari primer dimer tadi gitu. Tapi kalau seandainya itu sudah kita sudah kita kerjakan juga gitu kan, sudah optimum sudah kita kerjakan dan ternyata primer dimernya dan ini udah nggak ada opsi lain, mau nggak mau memang harus itu dan primer tetap eksis. Mungkin kita tentukan lagi cut off pointnya dalam kondisi begini pasti akan muncul primer dimer, tapi kan sudah kita validasi kan ya gitu. Jadi dengan kondisi seperti ini berarti dia begini, tapi itu udah kita validasi dulu Mas. Jadi dengan patternnya tuh memang konsisten begitu terus gitu kan ya, gitu. Jadi nanti jadi kesimpulan akhir kita.
Oke baik paham Bu. Satu lagi sedikit Bu terkait yang HRM tadi, itu kan selisihnya bakal dikit banget ya Bu ya kalau misalkan SNP kita ngelihat di TM-nya, terutama kalau misalkan mutasinya itu dari G ke C kan kayaknya nggak terlalu signifikan gitu ya Bu. Itu gimana Bu? Masih bisa kedetek Bu?
Bisa.
Oh, bisa.
Nah, salah satunya ya bisa kedetek, bisa. Ini cuman ini tadi saya lupa nih tadi A ke G ya, tapi saya pikir G ke C pun bisa, tapi mungkin agak lebih, kalau ini kan tadi cukup signifikan ya, bisa kita lihat ya, itu pun insya Allah bisa, tapi ya tadi itu ukuran amplicon-nya harus dipertimbangkan, jangan lebar-lebar banget ya. Baik, jadi makin pendek makin bagus, tapi jangan pendek banget juga, karena nanti akhirnya yang bereaksi primernya, kita pikir itu reaksi dengan templatenya gitu kan ya.
Baik Bu, terima kasih banyak Bu.
Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih atas pertanyaan dan jawabannya. Ada yang ingin ditanyakan kembali? Mau dicek di online apakah ada yang ditanya? Oh, nggak ada, oke. Sekali lagi saya kasih kesempatan, apakah ada yang ingin bertanya? Cukup? Oke, baik Ibu, terima kasih banyak Ibu Dr. Desriani atas pemaparan yang luar biasa. Terima kasih juga kepada rekan-rekan semuanya atas perhatiannya. Ibu Desriani boleh kembali ke tempat duduk. Kita kasih tepuk tangan untuk Ibu Desriani. Oke, cukup sesi kedua ini. Saya akan kembalikan kepada MC. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih untuk Bu Dr. Eng Desiani, MSc untuk pemaparannya. Dan terima kasih untuk Kak Ulen untuk menjadi moderator saat sesi 2 tadi. Oke, untuk acara selanjutnya, pemberian hadiah kepada para pembicara. Now we are going to give our speakers some present or gift. Please meet Mr. Luke Marian and Ibu Dr. Eng untuk maju ke depan. Come here.
To come on the stage.
And I would like to invite Pak Sepri and Miss Joy Kang for give the present to our speakers today.
Iya, Pak.
Sisil, boleh dihitung saat fotonya? Ya. Oke.
Open the placard.
Klaus.
Open the placard.
And also for Dr. Eng Desriani. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. And for Miss Joy Kang, please come for give to Dr. Eng.
Mr. Luke, you can have your seat again. And I want to invite Miss Joy Kang to the stage to give a gift for Dr. Eng Desriani.
Okay, thank you.
So we are going to the end of this event, and I would like to invite all participants to join us in the stage to take a picture together and make a memories together in this event. So the committee maybe could help us to arrange the participant to the stage so we could take a picture together. Oh, sini aja. And for the participant in Zoom, you can open your camera, and we could take picture together with all the participants in offline too. Okay, we are going to take a picture. If you have, please open your camera so we can take a picture together. We will wait. Okay, we are going to take a picture. First of all, in the first stage, you can take a pose. 1, 2, 3. And in the second page, 1, 2, 3. If you are still want to open your camera, we are still waiting for you. And in the third page, okay, we are going to thank you for your participant and opening your camera. And right now we are going to invite all the participants in this room to come into the stage. So we are going to take a picture together. The committee will help us to arrange the participant while taking picture. much for the other participants that already spare your time to attending this seminar, and also for the participant that join us via Zoom. Thank you for your participant, and also please for the participant in online, you can type chat in the box, fill the absency link in the column chat, and I would like to say thank you for the amazing speaker that are providing the amazing lecturer, Mr. Luke, Ms. Joy Kang, and also Dr. Ang Desriani. And also, I want to thank for the um, participant that have a lot of discussion, and I also hope to see you in the other event.
We want to apologize for all mistakes that we have made, and thank you all for your time to join this seminar, and see you on the next event.
Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih untuk semuanya. Terima kasih, Bapak.